4 days ago, my father passed away, leaving me alone in this neon-drenched city. My mother died from illness when I was young, leaving me with no close relatives. I have no lover and no friends I could ever consider to be family. I thought I had no attachments left in this world, or so I believed. My story truly begins just a few dozen minutes before my unexpected journey started. Finishing my father's affairs, I realized how hard it is to be the sole mourner. I remembered my father must have endured the same hardship at my mother's funeral. As night fell upon the city, I walked alone across a pedestrian overpass. The crushing reality of my situation finally began to settle deep within me. I was now truly alone. My name is Futai Kake, and I am 27 years old. With no family or friends, I had forgotten this hollow ache of true loneliness. I always took for granted my father's simple, welcome home greeting each day. Now there is no one left to welcome me and no one left to rely on. I considered taking tomorrow off from work, even just for half a day. But leaning over the railing, I knew it was an impossible, futile wish. A message from my boss arrived, demanding my presence at work. I was cornered. My boss had outmaneuvered me. I had to work the day after losing my family. I was truly sick of it all. There was no longer a place for me here. I wished to throw it all away and escape to a distant, comfortable life. A strange voice cut through the night, promising to grant my deepest wish. Startled, I looked around wildly, wondering where that voice had come from. A glowing sigil appeared, and a blindfolded double of myself materialized from it. The world twisted and dissolved into a vortex of light as I cried out. My senses were overwhelmed as reality itself seemed to completely fall apart. Suddenly, I found myself standing on a cobblestone street in a strange new world. My eyes widened in disbelief as I tried to process the impossible scene before me. I looked up at a magnificent castle, wondering what this place could possibly be. The streets were filled with strange people, including demi-humans I'd only seen in fiction. An elegant woman with pointed ears walked by, deepening my confusion and wonder. The voice explained this was the other world I wished for. I was utterly horrified. It told me I had been given power and was now free to live as I wished. I desperately pleaded for a better explanation, but the being simply vanished. I was left utterly alone, the curious stares of the locals fixed upon me. The villagers whispered amongst themselves, their suspicion making me feel deeply uncomfortable. I never imagined my wish to go far away would be taken so literally. But even in this chaos, a quiet resolve began to form within my heart. I grounded myself with a firm step, deciding it was time to take action. I knew I had to stay calm, that panicking now would be my undoing. There was no going back to my old world, so my only option was to survive. I had to find a way to make a life for myself in this new place. The buildings were rustic and unfamiliar, like something from a fantasy story. It was all just like a game world, filled with fantastical races and sights. Just like in the web novels, I knew the first rule of survival: get money. I needed to find some way to earn a bit of starting capital to survive. Standing in the town square, I realized everyone was staring directly at me. I turned, wondering why I was drawing so much unwanted attention from the locals. Then I realized my modern funeral suit made me stick out like a sore thumb. I decided my first step was to sell these clothes and buy something local. My eyes scanned the street, and I quickly spotted a potential solution to my problem. A hanging sign with a tunic on it looked just like a clothing store. Inside, a cheerful shopkeeper welcomed me, addressing me as if I were a nobleman. The shop was filled with rolls of fabric and simple rustic clothing for sale. I asked the shopkeeper if he would be willing to buy the clothes I was wearing. He noted the fine quality of the fabric, unlike anything the common folk wore. He agreed that the clothes were of exceptional quality and asked if I was sure. He made his first offer, a generous sum of 40 gold coins for the suit. I feigned hesitation, and he immediately raised his offer to 45 coins. A glint in my eye showed I wasn't finished with the negotiation just yet. I decided to push my luck and ask for just a little bit more money. He made his final offer of 50 gold coins, assuring me it was a fair price. I accepted his generous offer, thanking him for the successful transaction. I then asked him to provide me with a set of common, local attire. Transformed, I now looked like a fledgling adventurer, my starting equipment secured. I realized with relief that I could understand the language and read the signs. I assumed the godlike being had given me these abilities as a starting package. As I pondered my new powers, a small, red-hooded girl approached me. Her sudden appearance caught me completely by surprise and my eyes widened. She held up a small flower, asking if I would be interested in buying it. I was momentarily taken aback by her simple, innocent sales pitch. Suddenly, a brilliant idea struck me. This was a perfect opportunity for information. I told her I would buy it, and her face lit up with pure joy. But I added one condition. She would have to answer a few of my questions. She smartly agreed, but only after the sale was complete. I accepted her terms. Her face beaming, she told me the price was a mere 2 copper coins. I placed the 2 small coins in her hand, and she thanked me politely. With our transaction complete, I asked if she would now answer my questions. I asked her to teach me about the value of money in this new world. I explained how vital this information was, and she bravely agreed to help me. She began her patient explanation of the local currency, pointing to a small twig. I learned the currency conversion, realizing my 50 gold was a substantial sum. With my finances secure, the girl asked if I had any more questions for her. She told me this was Zfrail, but had never heard of a country called Japan. It was final confirmation. I needed to find a job in this new world. The girl then bluntly asked if I and Uncle was currently unemployed. I laughed nervously, realizing that at 27 I was already an old man to her. She suggested that if I needed work, I should visit the Adventurers Guild. She explained it was a place where you could take on quests for money, like in games. She excitedly told me her father's dream was to defeat monsters for a fortune. I couldn't remain jobless forever, so I resolved to give it a try. She happily agreed to show me the way to the whimsical-looking guild hall. As I approached, a hulking, battle-scarred warrior in full-plate armor emerged. He was followed by another grizzled veteran, his face as hard as stone. I was momentarily frozen, completely intimidated by their overwhelming presence and power. I shook off my fear, preparing myself to enter the intimidating building. Inside, a cheerful receptionist with bare ears greeted me with a vibrant smile. I was taken aback by her appearance, wondering if her animal ears were real. I politely stated my wish to register as a new adventurer in the city. Just to be safe, I asked for an explanation of the process, and she happily agreed. She detailed the ranking system, from the lowly F rank to the heroic S rank. F ranks handle simple deliveries, while higher ranks take on dangerous monster hunts. The cheerful receptionist, Kersha, encourages Kake to aim for the higher adventurer ranks. Kake internally acknowledges the guild's most basic rules: no violence and no swindling. Kersha confirms the explanation is over and asks for the 5 silver coin registration fee. She then gestures to a large crystal orb, instructing him to place his hand on it. Kake asks about the object, and she explains it is for adventurer registration. She adds that the guild's network allows his data to be accessed from any branch. Kersha apologizes, admitting she cannot explain the complex mechanics of how it works. With a comical wave, she confesses that she doesn't actually know how it functions. She reassures him that simply touching the orb is all that is required. Kake's eye widens slightly as his gloved hand makes contact with the orb. He is suddenly standing in a void, surrounded by swirling, incandescent, magical runes. The profound sensation ends, and he opens his eyes with a soft gasp. Back in the guild hall, Kersha announces that his information is being displayed. She begins to read his name, then trails off, her brow furrowed in confusion. The orb shows his aptitude as something she has never seen before: space magic. Kersha calls over her colleague Lumina, asking if she understands this new magic. Kake realizes his power is not one of the standard elements like fire or water. He asks if the guildmaster might know, but is told he is away on business. A flustered Kersha turns to Kake, asking if he still wishes to proceed. As the receptionists wonder what to do, Kake calmly states that it should be fine. Kersha agrees, realizing there is no rule against registering an unusual magic type. With his registration finalized, she asks if he wants a quest, but he declines for now. Kake finds a quiet, deserted alley to test the limits of his new power. He holds out his hand, his expression focused as he incants his first spell, Space Rend. In an instant, an invisible force slices a wooden barrel cleanly in two. He turns his attention to another barrel, preparing to cast a different spell. With a quiet command, he unleashes his Space Warp ability. A shimmering, disc-shaped field of distorted reality appears on the barrel's side. The distortion implodes into a vortex, crushing and consuming the wood. He understands that his magic directly manipulates the fabric of space itself. A slow, confident smile spreads across his face as the implications sink in. He muses that a power that can interfere with space shouldn't exist in this world. A shiver runs down his spine as he considers the danger of such a power. He wonders about the intentions of the godlike being who brought him here. He recalls the being's promise. He was given the power to go far away. Looking at the rooftops, he wonders if his magic can also be used for movement. He stands in the quiet alley, preparing to test his new theory. Closing his eyes, he focuses his mind, picturing the shingles of the roof above. In a flash of displaced air, he materializes instantly on the rooftop. He looks around, shocked that he was able to move in an instant. He peers down at the bustling cobblestone street far below him. The successful test fills him with exhilaration. He wants a better view. He vanishes from the rooftop in another silent burst of spatial magic. He reappears on a high clock tower balcony, stumbling and catching the railing. He pants, catching his breath as he admits the view from this height is incredible. The magnificent panorama of the city of Zifrael sprawls out before him. He looks out at the breathtaking cityscape, whispering that it's a beautiful view. The scene triggers a memory of standing on a similar balcony with his father. He remembers his father's words, telling him that his life was his own. His father's final wish for him was to live the life he truly wanted to live. Kake closes his eyes, absorbing the weight and meaning of that precious memory. He thinks of the world he left behind, with its skyscrapers, cars, and trains. He recalls the suffocating corporate life and the superficial relationships he escaped. He realizes that living as he pleases, as the mysterious being told him, feels right. Leaning on the railing, he feels a profound sense of peace and contentment. From his high vantage point, he can see the entire city sprawling below. In the distance, the Grand Castle sits majestically on a hill overlooking the town. He understands now that his father's words and the being's gift were one and the same. A new fire of determination ignites in his eyes as he vows to live as he pleases. He declares that with his power, his possibilities in this new world are infinite. The next day, he prepares to embark on his very first job in another world. Standing before the Adventurers Guild, he steels himself for his new career. He looks at the quest scroll in his hand. It's a simple delivery job. He admits he was tempted to take on many jobs, but the risk of failure stopped him. As a low-ranked adventurer, he reasons that simple delivery work is the best choice. He has no desire to fight monsters, especially since he was a corporate drone until recently. He examines the quest details. The client is in the South District, the destination in the East. Standing on a wooden walkway, he decides on his first move. In a flash of light, he teleports away to find a better vantage point. He reappears on the high balcony of the clock tower, a familiar and useful spot. He knows that the one drawback to his movement magic is the need for line of sight. A helpful diagram illustrates that he can only teleport to places he has already seen. From his high perch, he scans the city and quickly spots the client's house. With his target locked in his mind's eye, he teleports from the tower. He arrives at the client's door and politely announces himself as an adventurer. An elderly man with spectacles, whom he assumes is Brom, opens the door. Brom is pleasantly surprised, remarking on how quickly Kake arrived for the job. He explains that he needs 2 chairs delivered to his granddaughter's garden. Kake accepts the request, and Brom tells him he is counting on him. Alone in the backyard, Kake looks at the 2 chairs, ready to begin. He decides this is the perfect opportunity to test his void storage ability. He extends his hand and a swirling black vortex materializes in the air. With a soft whoosh, the 2 chairs are effortlessly drawn into the portal. He lets out a breath as the portal closes, the chairs safely stored away. He shakes his head, amazed at how unbelievably convenient his magic is. He realizes it functions exactly like an item box from a video game. With the chairs stored, he teleports to the destination to complete the delivery. He appears in a lovely garden overlooking the city's rooftops. He knocks on the door of the house, announcing the delivery. A young woman with her blonde hair tied back opens the door, surprised. She recognizes the chairs her grandfather mentioned and expresses her delight. She comments on his slender build, wondering how he carried the heavy chairs. Her face breaks into a radiant smile as she thanks him for the speedy delivery. Her genuine, heartfelt gratitude strikes a deep chord within him. He is reminded of his old corporate life, where his efforts were never appreciated. He reflects that being sincerely thanked for his work is a new and rewarding feeling. With the job complete, he politely takes his leave from the grateful young woman. Several days later, a familiar voice calls out for Mr. Krat at the guild. Kake looks up from the quest board, surprised to be summoned. Korsha stands at the counter, pouting and asking how he could have forgotten her name. With a sly, cat-like smile, the guild receptionist introduces herself as Korsha. She tells Kake to remember her, as she handles nearly all of his work now. Kake's legendary speed is noted. A quest accepted 15 minutes ago is already done. He remarks that her job seems tough, then asks what business she has with him. Korsha's eyes sparkle as she offers him a special delivery quest outside the capital. Kake is surprised, asking why he would suddenly need to leave the city. With a pained smile, she explains his efficiency has led to complaints from other adventurers. Taking jobs outside the city would actually be a huge help, she reasons. Kake hesitates, considering the danger of monsters that lurk beyond the walls. Kersha leans in, tempting him with a higher reward and a promotion to E rank. She adds that a rank up comes with a significant pay raise, catching his attention. "I'll do it," he declares instantly. Kersha is overjoyed, knowing he can't resist the money. Kake steps outside the capital, awestruck by the vast, sun-drenched plains before him. He marvels at the magnificent open landscape, so different from the city's confines. He reflects on a perk of being an adventurer: exemption from the departure tax. The quest is simple: deliver a letter and a pouch of money to Holland Village. He realizes carrying money makes this a test of responsibility, perfect for a promotion. He looks out at the long, winding road, the wind rustling through the grass. A close-up shows his face, his expression one of quiet determination. He smiles, appreciating the beautiful scenery, a feeling his modern world lacked. "All right," he says, steeling himself for the journey ahead. He focuses his will, calling out the command for his magic: "Teleport!" He thinks to himself that this is definitely a much faster method than a carriage. He begins jogging down the path, ready to start his long journey on foot. He takes a quick sideways glance, a thought occurring to him. Unfolding his map, he groans, realizing the immense distance to Holland Village. A new brilliant idea begins to form in his mind. He looks up, watching a single bird soaring high in the sky above. He wonders if he could get a bird's eye view and travel from a higher vantage point. Closing his eyes with a determined expression, he decides to give it a try. He teleports high into the air, his eyes bulging in panic as a bird squawks in shock. "It worked!" he yells, immediately realizing with horror that he is now plummeting. His eye, reflecting the clouds, quickly locks onto his next destination point. He chain teleports through the sky, creating a series of short, controlled aerial jumps. A look of pure, exhilarating joy spreads across his face as he shouts, "I can do it!" He soars above the clouds, hopping from point to point over the vast landscape. Laughing with delight, he feels as if he's flying, a far better alternative to running. His joyous flight is interrupted as he spots something on the road below. He looks down, wondering if the small group of creatures are goblins. He recalls the bounty posters, realizing these must be stragglers. It's his first time seeing one. He remembers that he has only ever used his offensive magic on practice barrels. His expression becomes serious, a bead of sweat tracing a path down his temple. He steels himself, knowing he can't avoid combat forever, and lands on the road. A pack of snarling goblins immediately spots him, brandishing their crude wooden clubs. The goblins growl menacingly, their faces twisted in aggression, revealing sharp teeth. Surrounded by the snarling creatures, Kake understands this is a real battle. His eyes narrow with intense focus, the world around him sharpening. He thrusts his hand forward, unleashing his power with a shout. "Space Rend!" A sphere of distorted space forms around his hand, intercepting a goblin's attack. The goblin's head is instantly erased from existence, causing the others to screech in terror. Kake moves quickly, turning his attention to the remaining horrified monsters. He unleashes another spell, his hand twisting as he incants Space Warp. A massive vortex of spatial energy crushes a goblin, its body twisting unnaturally. The brief, brutal battle is over, leaving Kake standing amidst the fallen creatures. He lets out a shaky breath, admitting to himself that he somehow managed it. Looking at the carnage, he finds the sight grotesque and deeply unpleasant. He reflects that he's never killed before and feels a pang of guilt despite the circumstances. He looks at his hand, realizing he must be careful with such a powerful magic. He recalls the guild's protocol, collecting an ear as proof before storing it away. He resumes his journey, flying over a breathtaking range of snow-capped mountains. After some time, he spots something in the distance, his eyes widening. Ah! He looks down from the sky, seeing a small walled settlement nestled in a valley. "This is it," he says, recognizing his destination, Holland Village. He lands and approaches the village gate, where a sturdy guard stands watch. The guard, seeing the unfamiliar face, asks if he is a traveler. Kake introduces himself as Kret, an adventurer on a request from the capital. The guard is surprised, wondering what business would bring someone to their remote village. When the guard asks for the sender's name, Kake mentions Gleg and Tira. A man with tousled hair approaches, laughing heartily. He is Gleg, and the delivery is for him. Gleg smiles, saying he understands Kake's situation well. Kake is surprised, grateful that Gleg came all this way to meet him. He finds the guard to be a kind person and asks for directions to the address. Gleg tells him to hold off, suggesting they finish the delivery tomorrow as night is falling. Kake agrees, thinking it would be rude to teleport away after being invited for dinner. As Kake bids him farewell, Gleg stops him, asking where he'll stay the night. Gleg grins, throwing an arm around Kake and insisting he stay at his house. Kake is completely taken aback by the sudden, overwhelming hospitality. Huh? He tries to protest, but Gleg is already dragging him off, eager for capital city stories. They arrive at a charming, timber-framed house nestled on the edge of the village. Gleg bursts through the door with Kake in tow, loudly announcing his return. A kind-faced woman greets her husband, Andre, then notices the unexpected guest. Kake apologizes for the intrusion, introducing himself as Kret and her as Andre's wife, Stella. Kake realizes the man's full name is Andre Gleg and wonders why he didn't say so. Gleg laughs it off while Stella chides him. Kake is just grateful for a place to stay. Stella smiles warmly, saying she'll prepare a meal for Kake and inviting him inside. Kake looks around nervously as he steps over the threshold into the cozy home. He reflects that it's his first time in a private home here, noting the familiar no-shoes custom. A young voice welcomes her father home, then asks if he has a guest. A young girl with wide, curious eyes and blonde hair in a ponytail peeks from a doorway. Gleg proudly introduces his daughter, Nina, to their new guest, Kret. Kake politely introduces himself to Nina, explaining that her father invited him to stay. Nina's shyness vanishes, replaced by a massive, radiant grin as she welcomes him. Kake is relieved, remarking to Gleg what a cute and well-mannered child she is. Gleg's expression instantly darkens as he warns Kake not to touch his precious daughter. Stella pinches her husband's cheek hard, making him yelp in pain. She scolds him for being a fool, and Kake is impressed by her surprising strength. Gleg, recovering, properly introduces Nina to their guest. He tells his daughter that Kret has traveled all the way from the capital. Nina looks up at Kake, her expression filled with awe and wonder. "The royal capital?" she exclaims, her eyes sparkling with pure, unadulterated excitement. Nina eagerly begs Kake for stories, exclaiming how amazing it is he's from the capital. Stella smiles warmly, explaining that a traveler's tale is wonderful entertainment in their quiet village. Gleg encourages Kake to be his daughter's conversation partner, curious if she longs for the city. His friendly tone vanishes as he warns Kake not to fill her head with strange ideas. A magnificent feast is laid out before them, a large, steaming gratin taking center stage. The sight of the delicious food makes both Kake and Nina's mouths water in anticipation. Gleg proudly offers Kake a bottle of wine, declaring the meal a special occasion. Kake agrees to drink, though he's not a heavy drinker, and Gleg happily urges him on. With a steady hand, Gleg pours a glass of deep red wine for his new friend. Kake compliments the wine's fine taste, which pleases Gleg, who asks if he can tell. Gleg explains the local grape farmers are a fussy bunch, resulting in a superior vintage. They raise their glasses high, clinking them together in a hearty toast to their new friendship. Kake takes a sip and is deeply impressed, remarking on the wine's rich, delicious flavor. Gleg and Nina beam with pride, boasting that their village's wine and salads are the best. Stella encourages Kake to eat his fill of the gratin, assuring him there is plenty. He takes a bite and is blown away, declaring that Stella's cooking is simply the best. Gleg laughs heartily, agreeing that his wife's food is indeed the best in the world. The family sits together, the room filled with laughter and the warmth of shared stories. Kake reflects that since his mother died, he has longed for this kind of family meal. Gleg notices his friend's quiet mood and asks if something is wrong, but Kake brushes it off. Gleg enthusiastically suggests Kake quit adventuring, settle down, and learn how to hunt. Kake considers the offer with a gentle, blushing smile, agreeing that it sounds nice. Later that night, he stands outside reflecting that a quiet, settled life might be good for him. A new chapter begins, marking Kake's first morning, waking up in the peaceful village. He stirs in his sleep, groggily mumbling about having to get ready for his old company job. He realizes there is no company anymore and decides to sleep in just a little longer. A contented smile spreads across his face as he sinks back into the pillow, savoring his freedom. Stella greets him warmly in the morning, asking if he was able to get a good night's rest. He thanks her for her hospitality, even for lending him a set of her husband's large pajamas. Stella mentions that Nina is still sleeping, worn out from the excitement of having a guest. She admits she was surprised by Gleg's worry, but is happy Kake was able to stay. Kake turns to Gleg, asking who he thinks would be that overly concerned. Gleg puffs out his chest, declaring that any father of a young daughter would be. He asks Kake if he did anything strange, having checked on them 30 minutes prior. Stella gently scolds them both, telling them to wash their faces while she prepares breakfast. Kake looks on, touched by the warm domestic scene unfolding before him. A delicious-looking breakfast of thick toast topped with a fried egg awaits them. Kaki turns away, thinking to himself that he should wash his face quickly. The morning sun illuminates the vast, tranquil landscape of Holland Village. After their meal, Kake and Gleg take a walk through the beautiful, rolling hills. Kake looks out at the scenery, remarking on how quiet and calming it is here. He tells Gleg that being in the village makes him feel like time is slowing down. Gleg agrees, though he notes that many young people would find this pace of life boring. He adds with a knowing look that being bored is its own kind of luxury. Gleg points to a nearby cliff, telling Kake to feel free to use it as a vantage point. Kake reflects that in his old life, he was too busy surviving to ever feel bored. He closes his eyes, a thoughtful expression on his face as a recent memory comes to mind. In a flashback, he recalls thinking this was the best he's slept since coming to this world. Nina had marveled at the different races in the capital, which he admitted had surprised him too. He had apologized for getting sidetracked, but Nina wanted to hear more of his stories. She had then pointed out that he hadn't been in the capital for very long either. With innocent curiosity, she had turned and asked him where he originally came from. He had explained that he came from a very distant place, far from here. He had added quietly that, for him, it had not been a very good place. He had looked at her, wondering what her response would be to his sad admission. Nina had beamed a brilliant smile, promising that from now on, every day would be full of fun. Kake had been left completely speechless by her simple, heartfelt optimism. Back in the present, he smiles, his mind made up about what he wants to do. His boot steps onto a dusty path as he thinks that he has finally arrived. Gleg announces that this quaint cottage is his and Tira's family home. Kake notes that they are neighbors, and Gleg laughs that it's why they felt a connection. Gleg offers to go get his parents, and Kake asks him to please do so. A brief establishing shot shows the distant, snow-capped mountain range under a clear sky. An elderly couple appears, introducing themselves as Gleg's father and Tira's mother. Kake greets them politely, introducing himself as the adventurer, Kret. He presents the pouch of money, explaining that this is the item he was asked to deliver. The couple looks at the pouch with surprise, and Kake asks if something is wrong. Gleg's father asks if there is money inside, which Kake confirms there is. The elderly woman notes that they usually only receive a letter, not money. Gleg's father opens the letter and begins to read it with a serious expression. Kake thinks to himself that the guild must have a great deal of trust in him. Gleg's father looks up from the letter and asks if it says anything about Kake. He explains the letter says a guild staffer vouched for Kake's reliability with money. It was also a test to see if he would try to run off with the funds. Kake panics, insisting he would never do such a thing and that the full amount is there. He internally grumbles about Kursha's mischievous test, but appreciates her trust. Tira's mother asks him to pass on her regards to her idiot sons in the capital. Kake smiles, feeling a sense of accomplishment as Gleg looks on proudly. A shot of the windmill against the sky confirms that the task is complete. Gleg declares that Kake's request is finished and thanks him for the guidance. Kake confirms that he has to return now that the quest is done. Gleg understands but insists he say goodbye to Stella and Nina before he leaves. Nina is devastated to learn that Kake is already going back to the capital. Kake apologizes, explaining his finances are still too unstable for him to stay longer. Nina looks up at him hopefully, her eyes wide as she asks if he will come back again. Kake looks at her with a gentle, warm smile and quietly agrees that he will. He takes her small hand in his gloved one, promising that he will return to visit. Gleg suddenly grabs him from behind, warning him not to get any ideas about his daughter. He asks if Kake is 18, which he seems to consider old enough to be a threat. Kake explains that people often misjudge his age, revealing that he is actually 27. Gleg is shocked and Kake turns the tables, guessing that Gleg must be 28. Gleg looks utterly defeated, muttering that Kake is being rude for thinking he's so young. Kake reassures Gleg that he has no romantic interest in Nina, so he can rest easy. Kake muses to himself that Japanese people often look younger than their actual age. Stella offers him a packed lunch, explaining it's leftovers from their wonderful dinner. Kake is thrilled, telling her he was hoping he could eat her delicious cooking again. He turns to leave, his boots crunching on the dusty path as he says his farewells. With a bright smile, he thanks the family for their incredible hospitality. The entire family waves goodbye, telling him to come back and relax next time. They watch from the gate as Kake walks away into the vast open plains. As Kake walks away, he reflects on the kindness Gleg's family showed to a stranger. He recalls their warm family dinner, a time when his heart was truly at ease. It felt as if he had become one of them, a part of their family. Looking back at the village, he makes a firm promise to himself to absolutely return. Stretching in the vast plains, he resolves to head back to the guild, feeling refreshed. The next day after leaving the kind family behind, he was promoted to E rank. His promotion brought new benefits, like access to more quests in more distant locations. The second, simpler benefit was that the pay for each job had increased significantly. He was now earning a comfortable living, but a gruff voice called out to him. A trio of veteran adventurers confronts him, demanding to know what cowardly trick he uses. Kake realizes with a nervous sweat that he has clearly earned their resentment. He calmly explains that there is no rule requiring him to take on subjugation quests. The man grabs his collar, calling him an annoying hyena. Kake knows reasoning is useless. A small chibi version of Kursha appears, silently enforcing the guild's no-violence rule. One of the men grabs Kake's arm, beginning to drag him outside the guild. The hulking adventurer in the horned helmet tells him that their conversation isn't over. Onlookers in the town square notice the commotion, wondering if a fight is brewing. A crowd quickly gathers, with people eagerly placing bets on the outcome of the brawl. Kake's face is strained with frustration as he thinks, no. He internally begs for someone to stop this cliché, predictable way of starting a fight. He recalls being bullied in his past life, a familiar, unpleasant feeling of being cornered. He considers teleporting away, but knows they'll just harass him again. He won't use his deadly magic. An idea dawns on him. No, he thinks, a plan forming. Wait a minute. He realizes the large crowd of onlookers is the perfect audience for a demonstration. This is the business opportunity he's been thinking about. The veterans are confused by his change in demeanor. He calmly tells them it's nothing important. He declares he won't change his methods and won't be intimidated by them. The man smirks, challenging Kake to back up his tough words with action. The three men surround him, shouting that they won't be scared off by his tricks. Kake smiles pleasantly, asking if they would like to have a chat in the sky. The three veterans are left utterly speechless and confused by his bizarre invitation. In a flash of light, Kake teleports all four of them high into the air. The men look around, completely bewildered by their sudden and impossible change in location. They look down at the city far below and scream in absolute, heart-stopping terror. Kake calmly tells them they are falling, complimenting the lovely view as they flail wildly. The trembling leader asks if this is Kake's doing. He calmly confirms that it is. The leader realizes with dawning horror that a fall from this height means certain death. They all scream in terror, asking if they are really going to die. They desperately beg for their lives, promising they were wrong. Kake wonders if he overdid it. With a slight sigh of feigned annoyance, he relents, saying it can't be helped. He teleports them all safely back to the ground, where they collapse in a heap. A bystander is shocked, wondering how they suddenly reappeared, having witnessed an unseen magic. Kake addresses the stunned crowd, announcing that his magic allows for instantaneous, long-distance travel. The crowd murmurs, questioning his unbelievable power. Kake prepares to make his proposal. He asks the assembled adventurers if they would allow him to support their party's movements. He offers to instantly transport them to their destinations, within a certain possible range. A diagram illustrates his new business model, a high-speed teleportation taxi service for adventurers. He believes the arrangement holds great benefits for both sides, but he is still uncertain. The crowd of adventurers murmurs amongst themselves, unsure what to make of this strange offer. Kake worries he has failed, that they are too confused by this unknown power. He decides he must add a condition to his offer to entice them. A tough female adventurer steps forward, demanding to know what's in it for them and the price. Kake, relieved she took the bait, explains they can save precious time and effort. He states that the price will naturally vary depending on the distance of the journey. He offers an introductory price of just 2 silver coins per party for a one-way trip. A man in the crowd scoffs, noting that the price is actually quite high. Kake acknowledges it's comparable to a carriage, but the true value is in time saved. A new clear voice cuts through the crowd stating, "I'll take it." A refined young man with glasses steps forward, declaring his party, the Thunderclap Blade, will hire him. He pushes up his glasses with a finger, asking if Kake is amenable to the arrangement. Kake is overjoyed. Helena, the brawler, is shocked by her teammate Reed's rash decision. Reed explains that this business is a massive opportunity for their party to advance. Helena is still skeptical, but Reed admits that while he has his doubts, the potential is real. Helena asks for his reasoning, and Reed suggests they move to a more private location. He wants to discuss the details away from the prying ears of their many competitors. In a quiet alley, Kake properly introduces himself as Kret. The leader of the adventure party, a large warrior, introduces himself as Locks. The fiery brawler Helena warns him not to try and deceive them, or she'll beat him up. The quiet, doll-like healer simply states that her name is Aruna. Reed introduces himself and suggests they get down to business. Helena is still impatient. Helena asks Reed to explain how they can advance. He replies that it's quite simple. Reed explains that with Kret's transport, they can cheaply complete a multitude of quests. Locks and Helena are shocked, exclaiming that 2 silver coins is not cheap at all. Reed sighs, pushing up his glasses in slight exasperation at his teammates' short-sightedness. He breaks down the costs of a normal carriage trip, including food, supplies, and other expenses. He asks them to be more mindful of their daily expenses. Kakei sympathizes with his struggle. Reed illustrates how Kakei's service will save them time, money, and reduce their overall burden. Helena lets out a sudden gasp of realization as the full implications sink in. She apologizes for her earlier hostility, now fully on board. Kakei is flustered by her enthusiasm. Reed declares they will use this advantage to get ahead before any other adventurers catch on. The entire party, Kakei included, cheers together, united in their new goal to aim for A rank. From a shadowy alley, a mysterious figure crosses his arms, deciding to accept a request. The figure smirks to himself, saying, "I see." The handsome, white-haired man finds the idea of teleportation magic to be very interesting. A title card announces Chapter 5, set in the elegant streets of the capital city. An hourglass sits on a table, sand trickling down, marking the slow passage of time. Kakei sits at an outdoor cafe, sipping a drink as he waits for his new clients. He wonders if they are doing well, noting it's almost time for him to pick them up. A flashback shows the 4 members of the Thunderclap Blade in a fierce battle against a massive monster. Several hours prior, they had arrived at the vast, rocky expanse of the Kaltz Plains. Locks is still amazed they arrived in an instant, a journey that normally takes 3 days. Kakei reminds them of his magic's limitations, but Reed says it doesn't matter to them. Reed confirms Kakei's trustworthiness and hands him the fee for the round-trip journey. Reed explains their hunt will take about 2 hours. Kakei muses that this is easy money. Kakei says he'll return to the capital for a bit while they work. Helena is shocked. She complains that it's unfair he gets to relax with tea while they fight and sweat. Locks points out that Kakei would be of no help in the battle anyway. Aruna quietly tells Kakei to do his best, wishing him well on his return. Reed confirms their meeting time in 2 hours. Aruna grumbles about wanting some tea. Kakei waves goodbye, telling the party to take care as he prepares to teleport away. 2 hours pass in the desolate, rocky expanse of the Kaltz Plains. Kakei teleports back to the rendezvous point, calling out to the party. Before he can finish, a hand clamps down hard on his shoulder. Helena, the party's brawler, casually notes that it's just Kret. Kakei gasps that she nearly gave him a heart attack from the shock. He then asks if their monster subjugation quest was a success. Helena gives a confident thumbs up. Their hunt went off without a hitch. Impressed by their B-rank skill, Kakei checks the next destination. But before they leave, Reed, the mage, says he has a proposal. He asks if Kakei would be willing to transport their luggage for a fee. This would allow them to carry back far more valuable monster materials. It's a brilliant business model, like a convenient mobile coin locker. Kakei's eyes sparkle as he accepts the job for 3 silver coins. Reed is then surprised by Kakei's offer of an empty bag. With a flourish, Kakei summons a large pack from his spatial storage. He announces that he will take their heavy luggage now. The other party members exclaim that his cheat-like magic is just too unfair. Reed simply smiles, saying everyone just recognizes Kakei's amazing ability. He then prepares to transport the entire party to the Garol Forest. Thanks to him, they complete 2 quests and return to the capital. Back in the tavern, they stare at a glittering pile of silver coins. The results have far exceeded their wildest expectations. Kakei is simply pleased that he was able to be of service. Helena sincerely apologizes for having doubted him at first. She admits he's a good guy, and his ability is the real deal. They then extend an invitation for him to join the Thunderclap Blade. Kakei takes a moment, genuinely touched by their generous offer. He politely declines, saying he doesn't plan to be an adventurer forever. Instead, he makes a counteroffer, designating them as customer number 1. The party's leader, Locks, understands and accepts the business arrangement. Word of Kakei's incredible speed quickly spreads through the adventurer community. In the tavern, adventurers celebrate their new, profitable partnership with him. In just a few weeks, his reputation grew immensely by word of mouth. His teleportation shop became a stable and incredibly lucrative business. But this unprecedented success created a new problem at the Adventurers Guild. Kersha confronts him, shouting that his business is a huge problem. Kake stands before her, completely speechless at her sudden outburst. He playfully calls her by her full name, much to her embarrassment. She grabs his collar, frantically begging him to slow his pace. He explains that the guildmaster praised their new completion rate. In utter despair, Kersha slams her head down on the counter. She explains that the old man rarely shows his face at the guild. She wails that if this continues, the entire staff will die from overwork. Kake never imagined his success would cause such a logistical nightmare. He feels a pang of guilt. He can't just work Kersha to death. He has also noticed something else over the past few days. His magic, it seems, is not infinite. He feels a sense of fatigue. He decides to take a break and think about his next business venture. A smooth voice interrupts his thoughts, asking if he is the teleporter. Kake turns to see two figures approaching him down the street. A strikingly handsome man in fine clothes offers a polite hello. Kake is taken aback, thinking he looks as handsome as a Hollywood actor. The man introduces himself as Emilio, a merchant from the capital. He then gestures to his quiet young attendant, Rodney. Kake asks what business a merchant like him could possibly have. With a charming smile, Emilio asks Kake to be his partner. Kake is utterly flustered by the ambiguous, romantic-sounding proposal. He stammers that he's not interested in that kind of partnership. Emilio realizes his phrasing was misleading and quickly corrects himself. He clarifies his offer. He wants Kake to work for his company. Kake asks if he means joining his merchant company to do deliveries. Emilio explains that he's been watching him for a while now. With Kake's power, he explains, they could make a huge profit. Kake is impressed, realizing how thoroughly this man has researched him. Emilio eagerly presses for an answer, asking if he will accept. Kake prudently asks to know the name of Emilio's company. Emilio proudly announces it's the Emilio Company, and he's the president. Kake deadpans that at least the name is easy to understand. Emilio is surprised that Kake has never heard of his company. Kake admits he was planning on selling his services to a big company. Emilio finds Kake's bluntness amusing, considering his handsome face. He reveals it's no surprise Kake hasn't heard of them yet. He asks if Kake is disappointed to hear they're a new startup. Kake understands the strategy, having considered selling to a big company. Emilio advises against that, though he admits it's not a bad idea. Kake asks why he thinks joining an established company is a mistake. Emilio's expression turns serious as he explains the reason. He says a large company would exploit his power and strip his freedom. They would bind him with contracts, turning him into a corporate slave. Kake understands. He would just be another cog in their machine. Emilio declares that with his new company, things will be different. He promises Kake both freedom and a generous salary. Kake points out that he lacks sales channels and personal connections. Emilio then pivots, asking about his starting capital for the venture. Kake shows him the pouch with the 50 gold coins he has saved. He assumes this will be his initial investment into the new company. Emilio clarifies that is his proposed reward, 50 gold coins per month. He admits his profits are small now, but he plans to grow them. Kake questions if he can truly afford such a high daily wage. Emilio looks at him, his confidence absolutely unwavering. He declares he can generate profits far exceeding that sum with Kake's help. Kake is blown away by his incredible, almost divine self-confidence. Emilio asks again if he is finally ready to team up with him. Kake takes a moment, carefully considering the incredible proposal. He realizes there is no risk for him, only potential profit. He thinks it might be good to help grow a company from scratch. And besides, there is another compelling reason to accept. He finds himself genuinely interested in this ambitious young man, Emilio. Kake agrees with a grin, looking forward to working with him. Emilio tells him to drop the formalities sealing their new partnership. On a city street, Kake's gloved hand firmly shakes Emilio's offered one. With their deal sealed, Emilio joyfully declares the Emilio Company has been formed. A new chapter begins titled A Two-Hub Life in Another World. The next morning, Kake arrives at the new company headquarters, stifling a yawn. He stops, his ear catching the sound of someone approaching the door. He sees Emilio's attendant, Rodney, opening the door from the inside. Emilio greets him, asking if he is ready for their first day of business. Kake returns the greeting, then offers a cheerful good morning to Rodney. Rodney, ever quiet, simply gives a small, shy nod in response. Emilio explains with a smile that his attendant is simply shy around new people. He then asks Kake if he slept well, and Kake confirms that he did. Kake jokes that the empty shop doesn't look much like a company. Emilio confidently states their partnership gives them an insurmountable advantage over the competition. Kake is impressed by Emilio's boundless confidence and has a question for him. Emilio asks what's on his mind, wanting to know more about his magic. He asks about the limits of Kake's teleportation and storage abilities. Kake confirms Emilio's research is accurate. He can travel anywhere in the country. Emilio thoughtfully processes this crucial piece of their business strategy. He then asks if Kake would be willing to demonstrate his storage magic. Kake obliges, opening a swirling black vortex of his void storage in the street. Emilio admits it looks quite dangerous, but Kake seems entirely unconcerned. A brilliant idea strikes Emilio. This means they can transport food while it's fresh. Kake agrees they could sell fresh-caught fish from the port in the capital. Emilio realizes such a luxury item should be sold exclusively to the upper class. Impressed by Emilio's quick thinking, Kake decides to test his magic's limits. He eyes a large, fully loaded horse-drawn carriage parked nearby. He looks back at his new partners with a deadpan, mischievous expression. He wonders aloud if he could just store the whole carriage at once. Emilio scoffs at the very idea, declaring that it would be impossible. Kake extends his hand, and the entire carriage is swallowed by the vortex. He turns back with a grin, announcing that it worked, stunning his companions. Emilio smiles, realizing Kake's power seems to have no issues at all. The sheer absurdity of it all causes Emilio to burst into loud laughter. Kake is startled by the sudden outburst as Emilio apologizes for his reaction. Emilio explains that Kake's power being so far beyond expectations is a delightful miscalculation. Kake can only remark on how heartily his new partner is laughing. Emilio jokes that with such power, they could easily be smugglers, horrifying Kake. He quickly reassures Kake it's a joke. They'll make a fortune without any risks. With Kake's magic now fully understood, Emilio decides they must act quickly. In an instant, they teleport, arriving in a remote town called Donkel Village. Emilio is ecstatic, amazed that they arrived at their destination in a moment. Kake asks why they've come to such a remote border town. Emilio is surprised Kake wouldn't have noticed such a strategic location. He explains that Donkel is a trade hub for the neighboring country, Madhat. Emilio asks if Kake knows about Madhat's specialty goods, which he does. Kake lists off the region's rich spices, dried goods, and fine textiles. Emilio reveals the crucial secret. In Donkel, these goods sell for incredibly low prices. The perilous journey from the capital, filled with monsters, keeps most merchants away. Kake understands that few people know this secret, as most would go to Madhat. He realizes Emilio possesses a level of knowledge far beyond that of an ordinary person. Kake remarks that their strategy is the basic principle of commerce. Buy low, sell high. Emilio agrees, but notes that putting that simple principle into practice is difficult. He gives Kake a sly, knowing glance, a plan already forming. But with Kake's magic, Emilio declares with a dazzling smile, it will be easy. Eager to start, Emilio tells Kake to prepare to teleport to their next destination. Kake gets the distinct feeling he's going to be worked to the bone. Thus their business began, teleporting across the land to procure the rarest goods. 3 months later, their success is evident in their magnificent new headquarters. The interior is opulent, with grand sparkling archways and fine decor. An ornate chandelier hangs from the ceiling, a testament to their newfound wealth. The grand staircase gleams, another symbol of their rapid prosperity. Kake walks the halls amazed at how successful they've become in 3 months. He notes that the number of employees has also increased dramatically. He reflects on their reputation as a company that can obtain any item. He marvels at Emilio, the incredible man he has somehow partnered with. He prepares to enter Emilio's office to make his report. The office is lavish, with Emilio sitting behind a grand desk, reading. Emilio looks up from his book and welcomes Kake back. Kake reports his delivery is complete, and Emilio tells him where to store it. He then gives Kake a new task, procuring a rare ore from a volcano. Kake notes that he is now exclusively used for the most difficult acquisitions. A traumatic flashback to his old soul-crushing corporate life hits him unexpectedly. He admits to himself that while the pay is good, he's not truly satisfied. Emilio, noticing his mood, tells him he can finish work for the day. The ornate chandelier hangs above as Emilio dismisses him from his duties. Kake is surprised by the sudden end to his workday. Emilio gently points out that Kake has been working far too hard lately. He reminds Kake of their initial agreement not to bind him with a contract. With a bright smile, Emilio then suggests Kake work for him for life. Kake is horrified by the thought, calling it a terrible thing to say. Emilio's expression turns serious and thoughtful as he considers Kake's future. He points out that Kake has enough money. The real challenge is learning to enjoy life. Kake is struck by the profound question, unable to form an immediate response. He stands in stunned silence, his mind reeling from the unexpected query. Emilio closes his eyes, giving his friend a quiet moment to think. He tells Kake that ultimately the decision is his to make, but he hopes Kake will help him achieve his ambition of creating the world's greatest company. Leaving the office, Kake wanders aimlessly across the city's rooftops. He looks down at the bustling streets, the people moving like ants below. He walks through a quiet side street, feeling lost and without direction. Emilio's words echo in his mind, how to enjoy life. He realizes that since arriving in this world, he has just been going with the flow. He's been so focused on survival that he never considered what he truly wanted. Lost in thought, he bumps into a passerby who tells him to watch out. He chastises himself for being so distracted and decides to find a quiet place. He looks up, his eyes finding the familiar silhouette of the city's clock tower. A magnificent, sweeping view of Zephril is shown from a high vantage point. With a soft flash of displaced air, Kake executes a teleport. He arrives on the high balcony of the clock tower, remarking that it's been a while. He touches the railing, recalling that this was the very first place he came to. On the high balcony, Kake recalled the vow he had made. He reflected on his words, a small, knowing smile on his face. His life had been good, filled with friendly faces since his arrival. Even his boss, Emilio, though eccentric, was a talented and capable man. And yet he admitted something essential to his happiness was missing. His relationships were mostly professional. He still lacked true deep friendships. He yearned for a place that felt like home, a true sanctuary. Then a memory of Nina's bright face surfaced, asking him to return. His eyes opened wide as the memory struck him with sudden clarity. He remembered the entire family waving, their farewell filled with genuine warmth. He realized that the village was the place he was searching for. A memory of their shared meal confirmed his desire to see them again. He decided he wanted to live a peaceful life in Holland Village. But abandoning his work in the capital seemed like an impossible choice. Then his eyes widened as a brilliant, perfect solution dawned on him. He turned from the railing, realizing his magic could bridge the distance. A triumphant grin spread across his face. He would have a two-hub life. He would not live a lonely life. He would cherish his new connections. He knew with certainty that he possessed the power to achieve this dream. He would start his new life, finally living as he truly wished. A new chapter of his story begins in the idyllic countryside. Young Nina skipped through a field of wildflowers, humming a cheerful tune. She paused in her work, sensing a presence nearby in the field. She looked up from her flower crown with a questioning expression. A figure she recognized was walking towards her through the tall grass. He greeted her with a warm smile, saying it had been a while. He asked if she remembered him from his previous visit to the village. He reminded her of how they had talked about the capital at night. For a moment, Nina just stared at him, her face completely blank. Kake's smile faltered, worried that she had already forgotten him. Then her face exploded into a massive grin as she shouted his name. She and her friends tackled him in an exuberant and joyous group hug. He let out a quiet sigh, overwhelmed with a profound sense of relief. She looked at him, asking what was wrong, seeing his emotional state. He confessed his fear that she might have forgotten him since his visit. Nina was shocked that he would even think such a thing was possible. She insisted she hadn't forgotten, though her father was more certain. He looked at her gently, telling her that he would never forget either. She smiled brightly, saying his visit was the most fun she'd ever had. She then thanked him for keeping his promise to come back and see her. He was deeply touched by her sincerity, a warm blush on his face. He thought to himself that he should be the one thanking her instead. Stella arrived, surprised and delighted to see that Kake had truly returned. He greeted her politely, saying it had been a long time since they met. Gleg complained good-naturedly that Stella never believed he would come back. Stella immediately offered to prepare a room for him to stay the night. Nina suggested he stay in her room, but Gleg instantly forbade it. Kake smiled wryly, noting that Gleg's overprotectiveness had not changed. He was happy to be surrounded by this warm and kind family once more. Gleg asked if he was off duty, ready to sit down and talk. Over dinner, Gleg asked if Kake was visiting for another quest. Kake hesitated for a moment, preparing to make his big announcement. He revealed he was thinking of moving to the village permanently. The family was ecstatic, already making plans for fishing and playing. Kake was surprised by the sheer enthusiasm of their welcome. Stella was happy, but expressed her concern about his work in the capital. She noted his nicer clothes, asking if his job was going well. He quietly confirmed that his work was indeed going very well. Gleg asked if he planned to quit his merchant job to live here. Kake clarified that he would continue his work in the royal capital. The family was utterly confused, unable to understand how it was possible. He admitted that his explanation would sound unbelievable, but it was true. His magic allowed him to work in the city while living in the village. Gleg was skeptical, insisting that instantaneous travel was simply impossible. Kake excitedly confirmed that his magic could do exactly that. Gleg remained unconvinced, saying he'd never heard of such powerful magic. Kake decided that showing them would be much faster than explaining. He announced he would take all three of them on a trip to the capital. Gleg, slightly drunk, complained that Kake was getting ahead of himself. In an instant, they were standing on a bustling cobblestone street. Gleg let out a yell of pure, unadulterated shock and disbelief. He stared up at the tall buildings, asking what this place was. Stella looked around at the incredible scenery, completely awestruck. She asked Gleg if what they were seeing could possibly be real. In the distance, she recognized the grand form of Zephrel Castle. She realized with a gasp that this was the real royal capital. Nina screamed with joy, exclaiming that it was the real capital. Kake smiled, noting the fearless and adaptable nature of children. Gleg muttered that it wasn't a dream, so Stella pinched his cheek. Seeing this, Nina pinched Kake's hand, making him yelp in pain. The experience was too overwhelming, and Gleg begged to go home. In a flash, they were back in the familiar comfort of their home. Nina was disappointed, wishing they could have stayed and seen more. Kake promised he would bring her again, a promise she made him swear. She hugged him, now understanding his magic, much to his surprise. Gleg was impressed, remarking on Kake's interesting two-hub life. He then asked if this lifestyle wouldn't be terribly expensive for him. He quickly dismissed his own worry with a simple, "Oh well." He turned to Kake, telling him he was more than welcome here. Gleg and Stella officially welcomed him to Holland Village as their neighbor. Stella told him to come to them if he ever needed anything at all. She immediately suggested they have a celebratory feast for him tonight. Gleg was excited to drink with Kake, but Stella quickly scolded him. With tears of joy in his eyes, Kake gave a deep, heartfelt yes. He accepted their warm welcome, ready to start his new life here. The next morning, Kake woke up after the joyous celebration. He stepped outside and let out a huge, contented yawn. He admitted to himself that he had drunk a bit too much last night. He looked around, taking in the peaceful morning atmosphere of the village. He smiled, appreciating the fresh air and the beautiful scenery around him. Kake reflects that he can finally begin his new life in this peaceful village. It was the first decision he made for himself, and he knew it was right. With renewed energy, he decides his first task is to find a new home. Suddenly, a tiny whirlwind named Nina tackles him from behind with a joyful shout. "Good morning, Kret," she chirps, her face beaming as Kake returns the greeting. She immediately asks what fun they will have today, her mind racing with possibilities. Kake playfully suggests a walk or flower viewing, much to Nina's thoughtful consideration. Gleg appears, informing his daughter that Kake is on a mission to find a house. Gleg greets Kake, then sternly tells his daughter to give the man some space. He then asks Kake how exactly one goes about acquiring a house in their village. Kake describes the capital's bureaucratic process of real estate agents and official paperwork. He wonders if the village follows the same complicated rules, and Gleg ponders this. Gleg explains that the countryside is much simpler, which leaves Kake curious. With a booming laugh, Gleg reveals the only rule: get the village chief's permission. After that, he can move into a vacant home or build one on empty land. Kake is relieved by how straightforward and simple the whole process sounds. A flicker of doubt crosses his mind as he asks if getting permission is truly possible. Gleg's expression hardens with unwavering resolve and loyalty to his new friend. Kake confesses his lack of confidence, feeling his two-hub life plan is audacious. Gleg forcefully throws an arm around Kake, telling him to listen closely. He fiercely declares that Kake is a good person and that he will personally guarantee it. Besides, he adds, the chief won't refuse someone who already did her a favor. Nina chimes in, promising with a radiant smile that she will also ask the chief. Touched by their support, Kake offers his heartfelt thanks to young Nina. With the plan set, Gleg's expression shows he is ready for action. Gleg decides they'll go after enjoying a delicious breakfast prepared by Stella. Holland Village rests peacefully in the valley, a picture of rustic tranquility. They soon arrive at the village chief's home, a sturdy and respectable residence. The village chief, Riloy, listens patiently before stating she understands the situation. She understands his unique magic, having already experienced his teleportation firsthand. Nina eagerly wants another trip, but Gleg insists she is still too young. Riloy considers their request with a calm, thoughtful expression on her face. With Gleg's endorsement, she has no objection to him living there, and Kake thanks her. Kake hesitates for a moment, sensing there is something more to discuss. Riloy has just one question: why did he choose their small, remote village? With his power, she notes, he could have chosen any number of wealthier towns. Kake looks over his shoulder, pondering how to answer her very reasonable question. Gleg and Nina look on with curiosity, also wondering about his true motivations. Kake's eyes narrow with a somber determination as he prepares his heartfelt reply. He explains that he has no family, no hometown, and no place to belong. Before he arrived in this world, his life had been completely different. He recalls his old life, merely surviving day by day in a lonely city. He remembers his father's last words, urging him to live his own life. He then thinks of Gleg's family, who welcomed him with such incredible kindness. It was their warmth that made him want to live in this specific village. Establishing his home here, he declares, is the way he truly wants to live. Riloy's expression softens, and she tells him that she understands his feelings. She is happy he chose them, and says Holland Village welcomes him wholeheartedly. Leaving the chief's house, Kake lets out a huge sigh of relief. Nina celebrates the chief's approval, and Kake agrees she was a kind woman. Kake then glances back over his shoulder, a new question on his mind. He wonders why Gleg is suddenly lagging so far behind them on the path. Nina whispers that her father is blushing from Kake's heartfelt praise of them. Gleg tries to hide his bashful expression, but his friends have already noticed. Kake and Nina share a knowing smile, amused by Gleg's sentimental nature. He reflects that such sincere words are rarely spoken, making them even more powerful. Gleg, all business now, declares it's time to go look at vacant houses. He suggests Kake can either build new or renovate, and Kake is thrilled. Kake considers his options, wanting to move in as soon as he possibly can. He decides renovating is the most practical choice, and Gleg agrees to start looking. Their first stop is a small, older house that appears to be well maintained. Gleg notes that it's old but maintained, so he could move in right away. Gleg admits that it might be a little small, and Kake silently agrees. Kake sees it as a good baseline, noting its convenient access to the village. Gleg jokes that location doesn't really matter to Kake, who has to agree. Gleg then enthusiastically suggests they check out a house up in the mountains. They tour several different properties, each with its own unique style and location. Kake and Nina explore the inside of another potential home as Gleg follows. They stand outside another house, contemplating its features and potential drawbacks. They survey another property from a nearby hill, taking in the scenic view. Gleg asks if he's found one he likes, but Kake admits none feel quite right. He agonizes over the choice, his usual decisiveness failing him in this personal matter. He knows he can't choose the house he'll live in so carelessly. He asks to see one final house, hoping it will be the one. He apologizes for taking up his time, but Gleg tells him not to worry. They arrive at a charming stone and timber house nestled on a gentle slope. Kake is immediately captivated by the house's unique charm and beautiful location. Nina happily points out that the house is very close to their own home. Kake is surprised such a fine house is empty, but Gleg explains its location. The previous family moved away 3 months ago, leaving the beautiful house vacant. Gleg jokes that being neighbors might be annoying, but Kake is unconcerned. In fact, he says, being close to Gleg's family makes it the most attractive option. Gleg and Nina are taken aback by his completely honest and heartfelt admission. Gleg blushes and Kake eagerly asks if they can now look inside. With a creak, the heavy wooden door swings open, revealing the interior. Kake's eyes widen in surprise as he steps across the threshold. He finds himself in a spacious and well-preserved entryway with a tiled floor. A beautiful wooden staircase with a sturdy banister leads up to the second floor. A large window on the landing floods the entire stairwell with natural light. He lets out a quiet sound of awe, impressed by the house's solid construction. The living room is vast, and Gleg explains it once housed a large family. Gleg wonders if it's too big, but Kake insists a spacious home is perfect. He thinks about how much easier it will be to store all his things. Nina calls down from the top of the stairs, urging him to come see upstairs. She runs excitedly down the long upstairs hallway, with Kake in close pursuit. He peeks into a room, noting the sheer number of bedrooms on the second floor. One bedroom features a large, built-in desk nestled under a bright window. Another has ample shelving and storage, perfect for his study or guest room. He thinks he can use the extra rooms for storage or for when he has guests. Nina suddenly grabs his arm, excitedly pulling him toward another part of the house. Nina excitedly leads Kake up the stairs, asking him what he has found. Kake follows, a bit surprised by her seemingly endless and infectious energy. A stunning view of a valley opens up from the back door of the house. Nina tells him he can hear the sound of the nearby river, which he confirms. She explains she used to play here with the children who lived in the house before. Kake muses that it would be nice to relax out here. Gleg appears, agreeing. Gleg imagines grilling sausages and cheese, a vision Kake finds far too tempting. With sudden clarity, Kake declares he will renovate this house and make it his home. Gleg is surprised by the quick decision, but Kake insists this house felt just right. Nina and Gleg look on with soft, happy smiles, giving him their silent blessing. Gleg suggests they report to the village chief, and Kake enthusiastically agrees. The chapter begins with local craftsmen carrying lumber to Kake's chosen house. Kake watches as the workers begin the process of renovating his new village home. Gleg asks Kake if it's true he's not planning many major renovations. Kake explains he likes the layout and will only update the kitchen and entryway. With his dream home secured, Kake feels a sense of peace and contentment. Gleg, with a wide grin, suggests they celebrate by going on a fishing trip. Kake loves the idea, and Gleg notes his magic will make the journey easy. Kake smiles, imagining the simple, rustic pleasure of a day spent fishing. A sudden, jarring realization hits Kake, stopping his happy thoughts completely. He apologizes profusely, remembering he must report back to the capital. Gleg understands. Andre asks if his job is all right. Kake admits the village is just too comfortable. He decides he will also use the trip to look for some stylish furniture. Kake promises they'll go fishing upon his return, and Gleg sends him off. As Kake teleports away, Nina runs up, and Gleg remarks on his amazing magic. Nina complains that it's boring without Kake, and her father tells her to be patient. The grand, sprawling cityscape of the royal capital, Zafrael, is shown. Kake's foot lands solidly on the cobblestones as he materializes in the city. He stretches his arms wide, exclaiming how good it is to be back. He looks up at the familiar timber-framed architecture of the capital's buildings. He reflects that the city, with all its vibrant energy, is also a nice place. He makes a plan. First check in with Emilio, then go furniture shopping. He walks down a quiet alley, thinking about getting a delicious city lunch. He's startled when Rodney, Emilio's attendant, calmly greets him from the shadows. Rodney asks what he's doing here, explaining that Emilio has been expecting him. Kake clutches his chest in comical panic, wondering how far ahead Emilio plans. Rodney suggests it would be faster to go see Emilio directly, and they set off. They arrive before the magnificent, imposing headquarters of the Emilio Company. Kake bursts into the lavish office where Emilio is waiting for him. Emilio greets him with a weary smile, saying he has finally returned. A female employee confirms she was told to inform any visitors that Emilio was out. Emilio admits he was worried Kake had run off, but Kake explains the village was just too nice. Emilio says it wasn't urgent, but he was becoming concerned about his friend. He correctly guesses Kake has found his way to enjoy life and asks to hear about it. A transition panel shows the grand exterior of the Emilio Company building. Emilio is intrigued by Kake's idea for a two-hub life between the village and capital. Kake explains his dream of having a spacious, relaxing home in the countryside. He looks down with a fond expression as he continues his story. He tells Emilio that Holland Village is a wonderful place with many good people. He concludes with a broad, happy smile, confident he made the right decision. Emilio looks back at him, a genuine and understanding smile on his face. He tells Kake he looks happy and that he respects his choice to find balance. He is relieved to hear that Kake still intends to continue working with him. With a dramatic sigh, Emilio says the company still needs Kake's indispensable help. His expression turns serious as his sharp, strategic mind considers a new problem. A brilliant, if somewhat manipulative idea strikes him like a bolt of lightning. He asks if a two-hub life means Kake will also have a house in the capital. Kake is confused, saying that staying at an inn would be perfectly fine for him. No, Emilio shouts, leaping to his feet, insisting that Kake must have a house. He argues that inns are unreliable, a security risk, and bad for business. Kake considers the logic, admitting that with a house waiting for him wouldn't be an issue. Emilio presses his point, saying a house in the city is essential for his plan. Kake reluctantly concedes the point, and Emilio beams, his argument a success. Emilio then slyly suggests that Kake could even hire a servant to help him. Kake protests, saying that hiring a servant is definitely taking things too far. He insists that despite his earnings, he was born and raised a commoner. He thinks to himself that he could never relax in such a bourgeois setting. Emilio looks at him intently, preparing the next phase of his flawless argument. He asks if Kake can really maintain both his capital and village houses alone. He explains the immense difficulty of keeping even one large house clean and aired out. To maintain two houses by himself, he concludes, would be far too much work. He asks Kake if he doesn't agree with his perfectly constructed reasoning. Defeated, Kake admits that his friend is absolutely right. Emilio smiles sweetly. Therefore, Emilio declares triumphantly, getting a house here and hiring a servant is the best option. Kake stares at his dazzling, self-satisfied friend with a deadpan expression. He narrows his eyes, knowing exactly what his friend is truly planning. He points out that Emilio just wants to use the house for company storage, which Emilio confirms. Emilio offers to use his connections to get Kake a good deal on a property. Kake is impressed by how thoroughly and refreshingly direct Emilio's plan is. And so Kake finds himself on a house viewing tour through the capital streets. He stands on a quiet street, contemplating the unexpected need for a city home. He grumbles that Emilio is being pushy, though he's also suspicious of his motives. He thinks of Nina and his village friends, and that he still needs furniture. He admits Emilio's logic is sound, and having an acquaintance to help is useful. He decides to properly check out the houses since he's here anyway. As he turns a corner, he is startled and bumps directly into a young woman. A thin panel shows the moment of their clumsy, unexpected collision. He catches her, apologizing and asking if she's all right. She says she is fine. As she walks away, he notes her beauty, wondering if she's a noble's daughter. A close-up shows her long, elegant hair as she continues down the street. The beautiful woman pauses, her expression sad as Kake's house viewing begins. A title page for the new chapter shows a grand mansion, teasing the house hunt. The first property is a massive, sparkling estate with ornate gates. Kake is unimpressed. The next is an even grander mansion with fountains. He still rejects it. Kake glares at his friend, ready to demand more reasonable options. Standing before another huge estate, he asks Emilio why every house is so luxurious. Emilio just smiles, arguing that a bigger house is better for his friend. He insists that hiring a servant is perfectly normal for a house of this size. He points out that since he's helping, Kake should live in a nice house. A professional real estate agent greets them, ready to show them the finest properties. Emilio's eye glints as he grandly invites Kake to state his conditions. Looking overwhelmed, Kake can only manage a weak, hesitant yes. Emilio declares the matter settled, eager to view the property immediately. Kake asks why Emilio seems to be having more fun than he is. Emilio innocently replies that helping a friend find a house is fun. Kake is left speechless by the simple, disarming statement of friendship. Blushing with embarrassment, Kake notes the great view from their first stop. Emilio cheerfully suggests they decide on this very spot immediately. Kake recoils, pointing out that it's their own company headquarters. Emilio thoughtfully concedes that it won't do, and they must be more careful. They stand together before a tall, classic mansion in a quiet neighborhood. The scene shows the three of them inside the opulent foyer of a different mansion. They stroll along a stone path outside, flanked by manicured gardens. An establishing shot reveals a beautiful, quiet cobblestone street lined with elegant homes. Kake notes that this area is remarkably serene, even for the capital. The agent explains the property was a noble's home, quiet and secure. She gestures grandly with her hand, announcing that they have arrived. A low-angle shot reveals the imposing facade of a stately stone mansion. Kake feels a sense of calm, while Emilio appreciates its classic design. The agent explains the previous noble owner preferred a simple, austere lifestyle. Kake smiles, happy to find he shares the same taste as the former owner. The agent offers to open the gates so they can view the interior. Kake gasps in awe upon seeing the grand foyer and sweeping staircase. He remarks that the mansion feels spacious but calm, unlike the last one. He's delighted to learn it's fully equipped with convenient magical tools. The agent consults her notes, preparing to reveal another special feature. She announces it has a bath, and Kake reacts with explosive shock. Standing in a massive, luxurious bathroom, Kake is utterly astounded. Emilio dryly remarks on Kake's unusual fondness for taking daily baths. Kake reflects on this world's customs, missing his daily Japanese soak. He stands in the magnificent room, his mind completely made up. He declares this is the house for him and demands to know the price. The agent offers a discounted price of 400 gold coins for Emilio's sake. Kake is about to accept the price, but Emilio quickly cuts him off. With a cool expression, Emilio asks if she can make it any cheaper. The agent, taken aback, reluctantly lowers the price to 380 gold coins. Emilio hints that he has other properties he could easily take instead. The panicked agent rapidly drops the price from 300 down to 250. Emilio makes a final, ruthless counteroffer of just 150 gold coins. He smiles, declaring that at that price, there's a profit for him too. The agent bows, thanking them, while Kake feels awkward about the deal. Kake pulls his friend aside, looking thoroughly annoyed by the display. He complains that the deal's conditions will just mean more work for him. Emilio simply calls his name, catching him off guard mid-complaint. He states that such a small negotiation is nothing to secure Kake's value. He cheerfully adds that he wanted to organize the company warehouse anyway. Kake reflects on Emilio's terrifying skills as he now owns a mansion. 3 days later, Kake returns to the capital, looking utterly surprised. He asks in disbelief if the preparations for the house are already done. Emilio explains the house was in good condition and is already furnished. Emilio reassures him not to worry about his aggressive negotiation tactics. He casually adds that the servants are ready, a fact Kake vaguely recalls. As the front door opens, Kake asks why he wasn't told about them. A young woman in a crisp maid's uniform steps into the foyer. Kake's eye widens in a moment of pure shock and recognition. The beautiful maid announces that she has been waiting for his arrival. 3 other maids stand in a perfect line on the staircase, greeting him. Kake looks on in utter disbelief, a bead of sweat on his brow. He wonders if these young women are the servants he was told about. He turns to Emilio, asking if these girls are really the new servants. The head maid announces she is now in charge of managing his mansion. She bows gracefully, introducing herself as the head maid, Elsa Walker. Kake can only manage a stunned, stammering acknowledgement of her words. He snaps out of his stupor, realizing this isn't what he expected. He confronts Emilio, asking why he wasn't told the servants were girls. He insists that isn't the point, but trails off, confused and flustered. He notes her surname Walker and asks if she is a noblewoman. Els calmly confirms that she is indeed from the noble Walker family. She reassures him that she is just the 4th daughter of a baronet. Kake asks about the others, and Elsa confirms they are also from baronet families. The first maid, Rasha Elfior, introduces herself with a bright smile. The second, Lulu of Mistelten, introduces herself with a quiet, doll-like demeanor. The third, Alshe Landora, gives an energetic and cheerful introduction. Emilio explains they all studied under his company to gain experience. Kake accuses Emilio of pushing these girls onto him in his mansion. Emilio plays coy, asking what he could possibly mean by such an accusation. Kake realizes the problem isn't just that they are nobles in service. He recognizes the Walker family as one of Emilio's most important clients. He notes their youth, realizing they are all teenagers, which feels criminal. He buries his face in his hands, unable to imagine relaxing now. Emilio teases that he'll soon look forward to coming home to them. Kake clarifies that the peace he seeks is found in his village life. Emilio's expression turns sly as he begins to put the pieces together. He deduces that Kret must have a woman waiting for him in Holland Village. Kake is shocked by the accusation, while Emilio just smiles knowingly. Kake vehemently denies it, thinking of the dangerous implications. He mutters about a woman in the village, completely flustered. A flashback shows Nina waving happily while her father Gleg glares menacingly. Kake sighs, regaining a semblance of his composure. He insists he just wants a quiet life, not a romance that could get him killed. Later, Kake and Emilio are seated in the lavish drawing room. Elsie approaches with a tea service, asking if they would like some tea. Kake requests his straight, while Emilio asks for a little sugar. Kake watches as she prepares the tea with perfect, professional grace. He shifts uncomfortably on the plush sofa, feeling completely out of place. He complains to Emilio that he can't relax with maids in his living space. Kake admits he's not good at giving orders, being used to taking them. Elsa serves him his cup of tea with flawless, professional poise. He thanks her with an overly polite and formal tone. Elsa tells him such formal language is unnecessary, as she is his servant. Kake awkwardly explains his deep discomfort with his new role as master. Elsie calmly advises him to take his time getting used to his position. Relieved by her professional understanding, Kake gratefully agrees to her suggestion. Suddenly, Elsa's intense presence radiates through the room, startling Kake. A quiet sound of unyielding resolve escapes her lips, her gaze unwavering. He concludes that his beautiful new maid is also a little terrifying. Escaping the mansion, Kake lets out a long sigh of relief. He stretches, glad to be free from the stuffy atmosphere inside. He recalls Emilio's hasty departure after settling the maid's contracts. He remembers Elsa's chilling acceptance of his secret, threatening him like an assassin. Her cool, professional demeanor truly earns her the title of Ice Maid. Lost in thought, he wanders the streets until a familiar voice calls out. A young man with glasses turns and asks if he is Kret. Kake happily recognizes Reed from the adventure party, Thunderclap Blade. In a tavern, Reed asks how things have been going for him lately. Kake jokes that he has been busy with his new business ventures. Kake asks Reed where the other members of his party are. Reed explains the women are at the public bath, while Locks is out drinking. The mention of a bath reminds Kake of his own luxurious private tub. Reed asks about the rumors of Kake's new busy life as a merchant. Kake hesitates, unsure how much he should reveal about his new situation. Reed is stunned to hear Kake now owns a grand mansion with a full staff. He quickly cuts Reed off, insisting the details are top-secret business matters. Reed congratulates him, but Kake still seems troubled by the idea. Reed pieces together the rumors, understanding Kake's dilemma with his noble maids. While Reed finds it enviable, Kake insists his worries are genuine. Reed considers his friend's predicament and acknowledges its difficulty. Reed notes that it's natural for a young man to feel anxious. He shares his own past struggles, recalling a string of early failures. He explains that through perseverance, they eventually found success and stability. He acknowledges that being an employer for the first time is a challenge. He advises Kake to be a firm, reliable master for the maid's own sakes. Reed's words resonate, and Kake walks home with a new resolve. He agrees with Reed's assessment, understanding what he must do. He realizes this is the first real job for his young maids too. His past as a corporate drone fuels his determination to be a good boss. With a grunt of determination, he steels himself for his new role. He stands before his mansion, ready to act like a true master. Inside, Elsa is quietly locking up the mansion for the night. Her expression is calm and focused as she performs her duties. Kake's sudden arrival startles the unflappable maid into a shriek. He is stunned by her reaction, seeing a crack in her perfect composure. Flustered by the commotion, Kake struggles to find the right words. Elsie, embarrassed, apologizes for her uncharacteristic outburst of surprise. He quickly apologizes for startling her so badly upon his return. He realizes that this shared awkward moment is perfectly normal. He reminds himself that she is still just a young woman, despite her poise. He makes his first official request as her master, a hot bath. Her face shadowed, Elsa asks if she should prepare it immediately. Her expression softens into a beautiful smile as she accepts his order. Kake is thrilled, eagerly anticipating his relaxing bath. Later, as Kake relaxes, Elsa checks in on him. She asks if he has eaten, and he realizes he only had drinks. He realizes he never arranged for a cook, a detail he overlooked. Elsa suggests ordering delivery from a restaurant for the evening. She then offers to cook, and Kake, surprised and delighted, accepts. Soon after, a magnificent home-cooked meal is presented to him. He is amazed they can prepare such a familiar, commoner-style dish. Elsa explains that her life in a remote barony was not so different. He learns that younger noble daughters often marry into lower-ranking families. He realizes their practical skills are part of their bridal training. A sudden troubling thought crosses his mind as he eats. He wonders if Emilio has presented these girls as potential marriage candidates. Deciding the thought is too terrifying, he enjoys his meal and sleeps well. A new chapter begins, promising a luxurious morning in his new home. Kake stretches, waking up in his opulent new bedroom. He lets out a massive yawn, still shaking off the last traces of sleep. He sits up, taking in the grand, unfamiliar surroundings of his room. He admits to himself that this luxurious lifestyle has its charms. He concludes that living in the capital isn't so bad after all. He luxuriates in his private, spacious bathtub, a true symbol of wealth. He marvels at the sheer convenience of having such a grand bath at home. He recalls his initial awkwardness with the maid's very personal service. He hopes to avoid any more embarrassing cultural misunderstandings in the future. Dressed for the day, he is greeted by Elsa, who asks his plans. He informs her he's leaving for Holland Village for 3 days. He asks her to manage the mansion, admitting he enjoys life with them. Just as he is about to depart, Elsa calls out his name. She offers him a formal, yet gentle farewell for his journey. With a bright smile, he tells her he is leaving now. He vanishes in a shimmer of magic, leaving Elsa to watch thoughtfully. He arrives in the peaceful, sun-drenched landscape of Holland Village. He runs eagerly towards his newly renovated country home. He is thrilled to see that the renovations have been completed. He stands before his charming new house, admiring the finished work. He notes that while the exterior is unchanged, it still looks wonderful. He notices the fresh coat of paint, a small but satisfying detail. He is also pleased to see a small garden has been added. The simple improvements fill his heart with a warm, happy feeling. Eager to see inside, he reaches for the door but stops. He suddenly remembers he doesn't have the key to the new lock. He realizes he never picked up the new key from the carpenter. Resigned, he decides to ask the chief, but a voice stops him. It's Nina, running to greet him with a joyful, "Welcome back." She tells him her family has his key, much to his relief. He tells her to take her time, feeling a wave of gratitude. She returns with the ornate new key and hands it to him. With the key delivered, she stares up at him with expectant eyes. She eagerly asks if she can be the first one to see inside. He declares her his first official guest, and she erupts with joy. "All right," Kake announces with a warm smile. "Our very first customer." Watching Nina's pure, unrestrained joy, Kake reflects on how adorable, energetic children are. He's not thinking about romance now, but wonders if he'll ever want a family. Nina impatiently tugs on his sleeve, urging him to hurry up and open the door. Together, the two of them cautiously peek inside the newly renovated house. Nina lets out a small, quiet gasp of awe at her first glimpse inside. Standing in the bright, tiled entryway, she is completely captivated by the space. She spins around, marveling at how much the atmosphere of the room has changed. Just as she's about to step further in, Kake suddenly tells her to wait. He presents her with a pair of slippers, instructing her to wear them inside. Holding the strange footwear, Nina is completely unfamiliar with the concept of slippers. She asks if it's a custom from the capital, but he explains it's his own rule. With innocent frankness, she tells him he's a little strange, a comment that stings. Despite her observation, Kake is firm in his resolve not to change this rule. He reflects on the clean city streets versus the muddy village paths, a cultural habit. He proudly declares this is his #1 rule, which seems to impress Nina. Trying them on, Nina discovers the slippers are surprisingly comfortable and fun. Kake is delighted, exclaiming, "Right?" that his strange custom is a success. Gleg and Stella arrive, and Stella praises the slippers as a wonderfully smart idea. Stella even suggests getting some for their own home, much to Kake's pleasure. The newly renovated living room is revealed, a stunningly bright and open space. Nina exclaims how large the room feels, though Kake clarifies it's just an illusion. He explains he removed a wall to connect the living room and kitchen. A cramped kitchen, he admits, completely saps his motivation to cook. Nina is completely shocked, asking Kake if he actually knows how to cook. He confirms that from living alone for so long, he became a decent cook. Stella is amazed, remarking how impressive it is for a man to be skilled in the kitchen. Nina complains that her own father only ever drinks, making Kake laugh. Meanwhile, a shirtless Gleg is outside, wondering if he feels a sudden draft. Kake reflects that in this world, men typically don't do chores like cooking. He offers to cook with Nina sometime, and she excitedly asks if he means it. He explains the house was designed so they could all cook and eat together. He generously offers them free use of his home, even when he isn't there. In this new life, he wants to build the kind of family connections he never had. He doesn't want his house to sit empty and unused while he is away. Nina beams, declaring that from now on, every day will be even more fun. She excitedly lists all the fun activities she wants to share with him. She tells him how happy she is that he came to their village. She formally extends her hand, welcoming him as her brand new neighbor. Kake accepts her handshake with a gentle smile and a quiet agreement. As they shake hands, he tells her it will be a pleasure to be neighbors. He gives Nina a gentle, affectionate pat on the head, sealing their friendship. Nina suddenly remembers something important and lets out a startled shout. She turns and runs off, leaving a confused Kake watching her go. She appears at the window, calling out that she has to go home now. From afar, the church bell chimes, signaling it's time for her to return. She explains she has to help in the family's leek garden, impressing Kake. She wishes she could explore more, but knows she can visit anytime now. She promises to share their harvest with him and waves a cheerful goodbye. He watches her leave, musing on the boundless, wonderful energy of children. He recalls that Gleg had mentioned growing vegetables when he first visited them. Now that he finally has a home, he considers starting his own vegetable garden. He decides he should ask Stella for more details about gardening sometime soon. His eyes widen as he takes in the vast, empty space of his new home. The room is completely bare, echoing with a profound lack of life. He decides he must first deal with the dreary, lifeless atmosphere of the house. His first priority, he decides, is to open the windows and air it out. He looks out with a placid expression as he pushes the old window open. A gentle breeze flows in, carrying a few stray autumn leaves with it. He gazes out at the peaceful view of the village and the distant church. The wind rustles through the nearby trees as he continues to look outside. A contented smile graces his lips as he declares his two-hub life has begun. He makes a determined fist, ready to start this exciting new chapter. He resolves to immediately begin preparing for his new life in the village. The very next day, Gleg arrives with a booming greeting, offering to help him move. Kake is pleasantly surprised and offers his sincere thanks to his friend, Andre. He then explains the work is already finished, leaving Gleg utterly shocked. Kake explains his convenient magic, and Gleg remarks on how interesting it is. Kake apologizes profusely since Gleg came all this way just to help him. Gleg insists that he should at least stay for a cup of tea. He then brightly suggests they have a housewarming party right now instead. Kake enthusiastically agrees, thinking it's an excellent idea to celebrate. He declines Gleg's offer to have Stella cook, eager to use his own new kitchen. Gleg excitedly runs off to fetch his wife and daughter for the impromptu party. Kake smiles, noting Gleg runs just like Nina, an energy he should learn from. Alone now, Kake decides to get some drinks ready for his guests. Soon after, Nina and Stella arrive, greeting him with cheerful waves. Stella worries about intruding, but Kake insists it's perfectly fine. With a bright smile, Stella happily accepts his invitation to come inside. Just as they are about to enter, Nina holds up a hand to stop them. She proudly announces Kake's strict no-shoes rule to her confused parents. Kake laughs as his new little helper confidently explains the house rules. Nina points to the slippers, explaining that they must wear them inside. His slipper rule turns out to be a massive hit with the whole family. They step inside the living room and are stunned by the cozy transformation. Nina cheers that the empty space has now become a proper, beautiful home. Gleg, impressed, tells Kake that he has surprisingly good taste in furniture. Kake reflects that he never would have owned a houseplant in his old life. He suddenly notices that Stella seems to be in a state of quiet shock. He asks what's wrong, seeing her covering her mouth and looking down. Her eyes sparkle with stars as she looks up, breathing the word amazing. Her intense reaction catches both Kake and Gleg completely by surprise. She is in absolute awe of the state-of-the-art kitchen from the capital. Kake notes her excitement, while Gleg grumbles about how expensive it must be. She apologizes for her excited outburst, but Kake reassures her it's no problem. He generously tells her she is welcome to use his kitchen whenever she likes. As they chat warmly, Gleg watches them with a thoughtful expression. Gleg decides it's time for him and Nina to explore the rest of the house. They dash off, ignoring Stella's protests about invading someone's home. Kake tells the apologetic Stella not to worry and suggests they begin cooking. Kake explains that he had made some food at his house and brought it with him. He and Stella peer down into a large wicker basket filled with provisions. Kake lets out a happy wah as he takes in the sight of the food. The basket holds a hearty potato and milk pottage and several loaves of fresh bread. Stella offers roasted venison, and Kake ecstatically declares that he would love some. He reflects that this world, like Japan, also has 4 distinct seasons. Stella asks what else he plans to cook for their housewarming party. He suggests they get started before Gleg and Nina get too hungry. In his new kitchen, Kake and Stella begin preparing the meal together. Stella is surprised by Kake's well-stocked pantry of spices and seasonings. He expertly uses a magical heating element to light the stove, delighting Nina. Following Nina's instructions, Kake demonstrates his skill with a kitchen knife. Stella, impressed, remarks that he truly knows how to cook. He brushes off the compliment, saying he's just used to it from living alone. Stella insists that being able to cook for himself is still an amazing skill. Kake is slightly flustered but touched by her sincere praise. He feels a bit awkward, knowing that Stella's husband Gleg never helps her cook. He muses that Gleg must love his family dearly to inspire such devotion. He confidently affirms his thought that Gleg is a good family man. A shadowy figure with narrowed eyes peeks menacingly around the corner. Kake yelps in mock surprise, startling both Stella and the lurking Gleg. Gleg calls out to Kake, confused by the sudden commotion. Kake playfully tells his friend to take a break while he takes over. He wonders what's happening as Nina approaches him with a serious expression. Nina explains that her father got grumpy because Kake and her mother were getting along. Kake blushes, realizing with amusement that Gleg was jealous. He exclaims how hot it is, and Nina asks if he's all right. Together, Kake and Nina secretly peek over the counter at Gleg and Stella. Gleg yelps that he burned himself, and Stella gently chides him for being clumsy. Kake and Nina watch the tender moment between the couple with warm smiles. Kake whispers that her parents seem like a truly wonderful couple. Nina declares that when she gets married, she wants a love just like theirs. Kake is taken aback by her heartfelt and surprisingly mature wish. He muses that girls her age are already thinking about such things. Nina cheerfully invites Kake to cook with her, and he readily agrees. The stage is set to celebrate Kake's new life in Holland Village. The whole family raises their glasses in a joyous, housewarming toast. Nina encourages her father to try Kake's cooking, and Gleg happily obliges. Kake and Nina both take a large bite of the stir-fry. Their expressions instantly shift to ones of pure, unadulterated shock. Gleg complains that the vegetables are undercooked and impossibly hard. Stella watches the culinary failure with a knowing and amused smile. Later that night, Kake suggests that he and Gleg practice cooking together. The next chapter begins with the gentle sound of birds chirping in the morning. Kake's eyes snap open as he wakes in his new bed. He sits up, momentarily disoriented by the unfamiliar surroundings. Ah, that's right, he thinks, remembering where he is. He is in his own home, in the beautiful and peaceful Holland village. He uses a magical heating element to boil water for a morning drink. With his mug in hand, he slides open the door to his balcony. He leans against the railing, gazing out at the serene mountain landscape. The view of the distant church steeple is absolutely breathtaking. He takes a sip, thinking how incredibly luxurious this quiet moment feels. He contrasts it with his capital home, where he's never scolded for walking and drinking. He smiles, feeling that this cozy house is his own personal castle. He reflects on the perfect balance of his two-hub life. After his drink, he places the empty mug and plate in the sink. He decides to go outside to loosen up his body a bit. He stretches his arms and back in the crisp morning air. A familiar, cheerful voice suddenly calls out his name. Nina runs towards him, waving and wishing him a good morning. He greets her back and asks what she is doing up so early. She is curious about the strange exercises he's doing to loosen up. Not quite understanding, she excitedly declares that she wants to join in. He tells her to copy his movements, and she happily agrees. He leads her in a side stretch, counting from 1 to 4. They continue the stretch, counting from 5 to 8. Next, they do a gentle arm stretch, counting from 1 to 4. Nina bursts out laughing at the weird movements, asking if it's his first time. He explains it feels refreshing, and she finds his enthusiasm amusing. She's disappointed it's over, but admits that it was surprisingly fun. Another voice politely wishes Kake a good morning. It's Stella, who apologizes for Nina bothering him so early. Kake insists it's his pleasure, as he enjoys her company. Stella remarks how much happier and more energetic Nina has been since he arrived. She gently reminds her daughter to finish her chores, and Nina agrees. Nina and Stella wave goodbye, telling him they'll see him later. Kake waves back with a wide, happy smile. He is left standing alone in the quiet morning stillness. A bead of sweat forms as he realizes how much he enjoyed their company. He reflects that Nina was truly keeping him company this whole time. He clenches his fists, deciding that these leisurely moments are important. He recalls Gleg's idea of grilling sausages over an open fire. He sits down, deciding it's still a bit too early for that. He finds a quiet, shady spot under a tree to relax. He thinks to himself that just resting in the shade is quite nice. He closes his eyes, a blissful smile on his face. He remembers Gleg's suggestion to grill sausages, but dismisses it for the morning. He looks up at the rustling leaves of the trees above him. He sits contentedly under the canopy, enjoying the profound quiet. A brilliant idea suddenly strikes him. He stands on a path in the woods, a plan forming in his mind. He sets up a simple, comfortable hammock between 2 sturdy trees. "All right," he says, pleased with his work. "Doesn't this look good?" He recalls getting the rope and fabric from the Emilio company. He feels a little anxious since it's handmade, but it seems sturdy. He decides to give it a try anyway, hoping for the best. He settles into the hammock, finding it surprisingly comfortable. A strange and wonderful sensation suddenly washes over him. He feels completely weightless, as if he is floating in outer space. Suspended in his new hammock, Kake wonders if he might be a genius. He smiles, realizing this is a luxury he never imagined in his old life. A gentle breeze rustles the leaves, adding to the perfect, quiet moment. High above, a pair of birds soars across the bright, open sky. He lies peacefully, hands folded on his chest, completely at ease in nature. Golden sunlight streams through the dense canopy of the forest. With a calm expression, he watches a single leaf drift by on the wind. He closes his eyes, sinking into a state of pure, blissful relaxation. The forest is a tranquil sanctuary, bathed in beautiful shafts of light. A cheerful voice suddenly calls his name, asking what he is doing. Kake's eyes snap open in shock to find Nina peering down at him. He admits she startled him and asks if she has finished her chores. He apologizes, saying he was so relaxed he lost track of his surroundings. Nina explains she was just curious because he looked like he was having fun. She asks if she can try the hammock, and Kake readily agrees. He tells her to get in, promising to hold it steady for her. Nina laughs with pure delight, exclaiming how incredibly fun it is. Kake gives her a gentle push as Stella watches, laughing warmly. Stella asks Nina if she's had enough fun, saying it's time to go. Nina excitedly urges her mother to try the fun hammock for herself. Kake offers the hammock to Stella, who thanks him for the kind offer. Stella looks slightly hesitant for a moment, a faint blush on her cheeks. She decides to accept his invitation, stepping carefully toward the hammock. Settling in, she remarks how nice it feels as Nina watches with a smile. She closes her eyes, agreeing with Nina that it feels wonderfully peaceful. Kake and Nina watch as Stella rocks gently, completely relaxed. A quiet moment passes as the hammock sways in the peaceful woods. They soon realize that Stella has been rocked completely to sleep. Nina whispers in astonishment, asking if her mother has fallen asleep. Stella wakes with a jolt, flustered that she was lazing around on the job. Kake gently says that's enough fun and playing for one day. Nina grabs her hair in frustration, not wanting the good time to end. He explains that crops are living things, so they must also live with purpose. Waving goodbye, Nina asks Kake to let her ride the hammock again soon. Kake waves back with a warm smile, promising to see her again. He quietly reflects on his own words about crops being alive. In his old life, he never had pets. Knowing it would be difficult, he sees Stella and Nina thinking about their self-sufficient lifestyle. Living in the country, he realizes he knows nothing of this way of life. He gets out of the hammock, a new idea taking root in his mind. He wants to have a field that is his and his alone. He pictures himself tending to his very own plot of land. He imagines a small house surrounded by rows of thriving grapevines. He sits up abruptly, filled with a sudden desire to try it himself. He resolves to get serious and make a real move on his new dream. For the rest of today, however, he decides to simply relax. The idyllic village of Holland rests peacefully in the mountain valley. His quiet is shattered by Gleg, who excitedly demands a turn. Kake can only manage a weary sigh as his quiet day comes to an end. He decides he will teach Gleg how to make one sometime soon. Inspired by Nina, Kake decides he wants to try growing crops. He finds Gleg in his garden and approaches him to ask for advice. Gleg asks what's wrong, seeing Kake staring intently at the field. Gleg smiles warmly, realizing Kake wants to try his hand at farming. He enthusiastically offers to help his friend get started on the project. Gleg asks about his experience, but Kake admits he's a total novice. Gleg thoughtfully suggests it's best to start with something simple. Kake asks if there is a crop that's recommended for a beginner. Gleg considers Kake's frequent work trips to the capital. He suggests low-maintenance crops like leeks or this world's gamo. Stella arrives just in time, and Kake greets her with a smile. Gleg agrees with Stella's idea and offers to show Kake their fields. Kake is stunned by the sight of a vast, sprawling field of leeks. He exclaims that it's an incredible field, the scent already in the air. He worries if he can manage, but Stella reassures him it will be fine. She explains that leeks can even be grown in small pots and buckets. Feeling confident, Kake is happy that it seems manageable for him. He eagerly accepts Gleg's offer to try a freshly harvested leek. He watches with anticipation as Gleg pulls one from the rich soil. Gleg hands him the massive leek, its size and thickness impressive. Kake is shocked by just how enormous the fresh leek is. He asks if it's really that big, but Gleg says it's normal here. Kake thinks it must be at least 3 times thicker than he imagined. He explains that in other regions, they are much smaller and thinner. He feels like he's the strange one for thinking it's so huge. Gleg encourages him to try it raw, promising it's delicious. Kake politely accepts the piece of leek from his smiling friend. He takes a hesitant but hearty bite of the raw vegetable. His eyes go wide as he shouts about how incredibly sweet it is. He says it tastes more like a fruit and has no pungent smell at all. Leeks are a versatile ingredient, perfect for many different dishes. He declares he'll grow leeks so he can eat them every single day. Stella suggests they go see the gamo fields as well. Kake asks what a gamo is, confirming it's not from his world. Stella says they're delicious and highly recommends them for his garden. They walk towards another vast field covered in leafy green plants. As they admire the beautiful view, Stella offers to dig one up for him. Gleg explains that the gamo plants are incredibly hardy and resilient. They can survive even with minimal care, making them very convenient. Gleg thinks they're even easier than leeks, perfect for Kake. Stella presents a freshly dug gamo to a surprised Kake. He holds it, noting its long, slender shape is like a sweet potato. Stella warns him they must be cooked and offers it to him as a gift. She smiles, asking him what he thinks of their local crops. Gleg agrees that growing both leeks and gamo is a great idea. Stella generously offers to give him all the seeds and seedlings he needs. Gleg reassures him they have plenty, so he shouldn't worry at all. He tells Kake to ask for help anytime, and he'll be there. Kake feels he has already received more than enough help from them. The first steps of his new farming life are about to begin. Kake carefully measures out the dimensions for his new garden plot. He surveys the area, pleased with the size Gleg had recommended. He knows starting with a huge field would be impossible to manage. With a cheerful grin, he decides to start with the daunting task of weeding. He stands before the thick, overgrown patch of earth, ready to work. For a moment, he silently contemplates the challenge that lies before him. A brilliant idea strikes him as he thrusts his hand forward, incanting, "Space Rend!" In an instant, an invisible force slices cleanly through the dense weeds. He marvels at how easy it was, musing that the god who gave him this power never intended it for gardening. The magic saved him a lot of time, but he sees the roots still remain. He still has to till the soil to fully prepare the garden bed. He begins the hard physical labor of turning over the stubborn earth. He briefly considers using space warp to magically till the soil in an instant, but he quickly dismisses the idea, realizing it would be a mistake. If he makes everything too easy, then the work itself will have no meaning. Just then Gleg appears, offering to share some of his fertilizer. He's shocked that Kake is already tilling, asking how he finished weeding so quickly. Kake sheepishly admits that he had a little fun using his convenient magic. Gleg, who has never seen it, excitedly asks for a demonstration. Kake agrees to show him, explaining that it works like this. He unleashes another space wren, clearing the remaining weeds in a flash. Gleg's face contorts in comical amazement at the incredible magical display. He excitedly tells Kake how cool it was and demands to see it again. The two men, like excited children, eagerly discuss the magic trick. Gleg declares that Kake's magic is truly interesting and gets him pumped up. Kake playfully reminds him about the fertilizer he was promised. Gleg hoists a heavy sack, and Kake thanks him for the generous gift. A sly, cunning glint suddenly appears in Gleg's eyes. He offers the fertilizer on the condition that Kake weeds his garden in return. Kake is shocked by the sudden reversal, a classic bait and switch from his friend. He reluctantly agrees, offering to clear an area equal to the fertilizer used. He then breaks the tension with a laugh, saying he was only joking. Gleg is relieved, and Kake happily agrees to help him with the weeding. Gleg admits the work is tough, and it's usually Stella who handles it. Kake reassures him, noting he hasn't even negotiated with a real merchant yet. Stella's voice echoes from afar, laughing that true merchants are far more terrifying. Kake watches Gleg relax, his own mind turning to more serious thoughts. He thinks of this village and the wonderful family he has met here. He reflects on how he's only ever been on the receiving end of their kindness. Looking at the beautiful landscape, he wants to find a way to properly repay them. He wonders what he, with his unique power, can do to truly help them. The title card for Chapter 16 appears over a view of his new garden. The next day, a shovel bites deep into the freshly tilled earth. Kake, leaning on his shovel with a towel around his neck, decides to take a short break. He reflects on yesterday's busy day and the dinner he shared with Gleg's family. He stands on his porch, looking out at the peaceful morning scenery. A small, contented smile plays on his lips as he takes in the view. He looks over the plot of land he has painstakingly prepared with his own hands. He feels a sense of accomplishment, noting it's finally starting to look like a real garden. He muses that this is a nice change of pace from his usual work. He realizes this simple physical labor has become a new hobby for him. He's surprised to find himself enjoying making a garden so much. Two elderly figures approach his home, greeting him warmly in the morning light. Kake immediately recognizes them as Gleg and Tira's parents. The woman apologizes for not properly introducing herself during their last meeting. With a warm smile, she introduces herself as Angelica and her husband as Griff. Kake bows, apologizing for not greeting them sooner now that he's a resident. Angelica kindly tells him not to worry about such formalities. She apologizes for showing up so suddenly while he is busy moving in. Kake reassures her that his moving preparations are already complete. Griff, ever the practical farmer, asks what Kake plans to grow. Kake explains he'll start with simple things like gamo and leeks. Griff thoughtfully surveys the prepared garden bed from a distance. He steps forward onto the tilled earth to offer some expert advice. He tells Kake that the gamo bed should be raised a little higher. He explains that the roots spread out quite wide, so they need more space. Kake is grateful for the advice and thanks him profusely for the tip. Griff then presents him with a housewarming gift. Kake asks what it is, and Griff explains it's a thank you gift for his help. Angelica chimes in, offering her own gift of homemade butter and cheese. Kake is overwhelmed, saying the dish looks amazing and smells wonderful. He asks if Griff, by any chance, made the beautifully crafted dish himself. Angelica proudly confirms that Griff's family are artisans who specialize in dishware. Kake is amazed, telling Griff he will treasure the wonderful and practical gift. A small, almost imperceptible smile of pride appears on Griff's stoic face. He gruffly dismisses the praise, but Angelica teases him for being shy. Kake thinks to himself that Griff seems stern at first glance. But he realizes the old man is just awkward and actually a very kind person. Kake asks if Angelica also raises cows and sheep. She confirms they have many sheep and their milk is used for the cheese. Kake thinks raising livestock would be nice, and Angelica agrees sheep are easy. He mentions they're also good for eating, and Angelica agrees with a warm smile. She suggests that Kake should try raising some when he has the time. As they prepare to leave, Griff encourages him to do his best in his new life. Kake thanks them both with a loud, heartfelt shout of gratitude. That night, his new home is quiet and peaceful under the starry sky. He prepares a meal with the gifts, exclaiming how delicious it all looks. He savors the rich butter and cheese, a taste of the village's bounty. He also appreciates the fine craftsmanship of the dish from Griff. A thoughtful, serious expression crosses his face as he enjoys his meal. He realizes that everyone in this village has a specific, important role. Gleg serves as a guard while Stella and Nina work as farmers. The entire village works together, each person contributing their own unique skills. He reflects that he lacks such practical skills, even with his special magic. He wonders, then what about me? What is my role here? He looks out at the vast landscape, asking how he can truly help everyone. Two small birds chirp on a branch in the bright morning light. Kake stands on his porch looking out at his new home and the village beyond. He lets out a small yawn, still shaking off the last vestiges of sleep. A familiar voice greets him from off-panel. Good morning, Kret. The village chief, Riloy, greets Kake with a warm, knowing smile. She apologizes for the early visit, asking if he's settling in all right. Kake begins to deny any problems, a slightly forced smile on his face. He stands before her, assuring her that everything in the village is wonderful. Riloy sees through his facade, noting his troubled expression and asking for honesty. Kake lets out a small sigh, admitting that she has seen through him. He explains that Gleg's parents, Angelica and Griff, visited him the day before. During their visit, he continues, they presented him with a housewarming gift. He was happy to receive their thoughtful presence, but it also made him think. Standing on his property, he confesses his wonder about his role in Holland Village. He feels a deep, persistent desire to repay the kindness the village has shown him. Yet he laments his lack of skill, unable to create things with heart like them. He recalls the joy of being accepted, but feels he is only ever receiving. Riloy listens patiently, understanding his desire to find his place in the village. Kake affirms that this desire to contribute is a very strong feeling for him. She smiles kindly, advising him that there is no need to be in such a hurry. Kake looks puzzled, questioning what she means by not rushing. Riloy explains that the quiet village offers few opportunities for its young people. She recalls how Gleg and Tira left home to seek adventure and fortune. Kake muses that they both became adventurers, chasing the excitement of the capital. He acknowledges that while he loves the quiet life, it's not for everyone. He then wonders aloud if, at 27, he still qualifies as a young person. Riloy points out that he from the capital chose their village, surprising him. She tells him that his choice to live here is enough to make them happy. Kake is taken aback, realizing the collective we she is speaking of. Riloy recalls how Gleg's parents were also delighted by his arrival. A young person from the outside, she says, brings a new energy to the village. Because of this, she tells him not to worry so much about his role. With a profound warmth, she gives him her most important advice. First, enjoy your life. Her words trigger a vivid emotional memory of his late father's final wish. Kake is stunned, hearing his father's sentiment echoed so perfectly. With tears welling in his eyes, he accepts her wisdom with a heartfelt yes. Looking over the beautiful village, he feels truly grateful to be there. As Riloy departs, she thinks that he should allow himself to relax. She muses that rushing for answers rarely yields good results. He'll find his way. Kake walks along a path, marveling at the wisdom that comes with age. He stops suddenly, his attention captured by something in the near distance. He spies lush, green vines growing within a large glass-paned building. He recognizes the structure as a greenhouse. Through the glass, he sees rows of plants laden with dark, plump fruit. His face lights up with joyous recognition. No way! It's a tomato field, he realizes, surprised to find one so close by. As tomatoes are his favorite food, he hopes to buy some from the owner. He peers closer, however, noticing something strange about the fruit. He observes that their shape is a little unusual. They are shaped more like onions with a beautiful and glossy deep color. He reaches a hand through the open door, drawn to the unique produce. A sharp, commanding voice suddenly calls out to him. A shovel blade appears before him, and he freezes in alarm. A young man confronts him, demanding to know what he is doing. The farmer warns him not to touch the tomatoes. He declares he will report Kake as a tomato thief. The title page dramatically frames the confrontation, "Get out, tomato thief." Kake is flustered, asking if the farmer is referring to him. He quickly insists it is a misunderstanding, drawn in by the strange shape. The farmer eyes him with deep suspicion, noting his unfamiliar face. He demands to know if Kake is a local, to which Kake agrees. Kake introduces himself as Kret, a new resident of the village. The farmer scoffs, realizing Kake is the weirdo who moved from the capital. Kake is surprised he's heard of him, but the farmer says it's common knowledge. The farmer calls him an eccentric for giving up city life for the country. Kake internally remarks on the farmer's sharp tongue. He defends his love for the village, but the farmer remains unconvinced. The farmer gets closer, admitting Kake is easier to talk to than expected. He gives a slight smirk, thinking Kake doesn't seem so bad after all. Kake is pleased, asking if that was a compliment. The farmer apologizes for his suspicion, blaming it on recent troubles. Kake asks if there are bad people around, but the farmer specifies outsiders. The farmer's expression darkens as he recalls the source of his frustration. He abruptly changes the subject, asking for Kake's age. Kake casually replies that he is 27, shocking the farmer. The farmer grumbles that Kake is older than he looks, telling him to forget it. Kake wonders if the farmer is younger than Gleg, who just has an old-looking face. The farmer then properly asks who Kake is. He introduces himself with a confident smile as Olga, the tomato farmer. He reveals he is 22, a rare young person, and suggests they drop the formalities. Kake is delighted, having not known there was anyone his age in the village. He admits that he has been wanting to find a friend closer to his age. He happily extends his hand, ready to start their friendship. Olga agrees with a mischievous grin. They shake hands in a firm, friendly grip. Kake feels a sudden wet, squishing sensation in his palm. He looks down to see his hand covered in the pulp of a crushed tomato. Olga turns away, trying to hide his laughter as he apologizes. He then admits with a sly look that he did it on purpose. Kake smirks, thinking Olga is quite the little prankster. Despite the prank, he feels certain that he and Olga can become good friends. As they wash their hands, Kake asks about the unique tomatoes. Olga is confused by the question, not understanding what he means. He insists that they are just normal tomatoes. Kake argues that the tomatoes he knows are much rounder. Olga states that he only knows the variety he grows himself. He explains that he can only sell them to nearby villages, unable to travel further. Kake nods, understanding the severe logistical challenges of this world. He considers the risks Olga would face traveling to a distant city. Kake turns to Olga, an idea beginning to form. He points to the greenhouse, asking if he might have just one. Olga starts to protest, telling him to wait. With a soft thump, a single tomato materializes in Kake's hand. Olga stares in shock as Kake holds the unripe fruit. Olga offers Kake one of his prized tomatoes, which Kake gratefully accepts. Kake holds the unique, dark fruit, studying it with intense focus. He notes its surprising weight and the subtle, earthy aroma it gives off. Lost in thought, he admires its smooth skin until Olga interrupts him. With an annoyed look, Olga tells him to stop staring and just eat it. Kake takes a large, satisfying bite, the skin breaking with a crisp sound. His eyes widen in shock as he exclaims at its intense sweetness and acidity. A blissful smile spreads across his face as he truly savors the incredible taste. Olga feigns indifference, asking what his final verdict is. Kake bursts with excitement, declaring that it's unbelievably delicious. He insists it is the best tomato he has ever tasted in his entire life. Olga tries to hide a proud smile, simply saying, "Is that so?" He admits he is confident in the flavor, especially coming from a city boy. Kake knows Olga is happy to have his hard work so sincerely praised. He understands it's not just flattery, the tomato is a masterpiece. This exceptional quality comes from the soul Olga poured into growing it. But Kake realizes a crucial flaw. Olga doesn't know its true value. He thinks his new friend is capable of so much more, but is held back. It seems like a waste for such quality to be confined to a small village. Olga snaps him out of it, asking why he's suddenly so serious. Kake looks at him, thinking it's a shame such a delicious thing isn't shared. He asks Olga if he doesn't want more people to enjoy his tomatoes. Olga admits that he does, but dismisses the thought as an impossible dream. Kake's mind races, imagining branding and the sweet scent of profit. Olga tells him that while he appreciates the sentiment, it's just impossible. He knows selling in a big city would be profitable, but it's out of reach. He dismisses the idea as a fairy tale, as Holland is a backwater village. Kake passionately insists that this is not true at all. He declares that he can make Olga's tomatoes famous across the entire country. Olga is shocked, demanding to know if Kake is serious. Kake confirms he is. He starts to explain that he possesses a special ability to make it happen. He realizes he has a unique way to contribute to the village's prosperity. A thought strikes him. He has the means to connect these two worlds. He looks out at the peaceful village that has become his home. Then he thinks of the capital and the bridge only he can build. Kake decides showing is better than telling, asking Olga what he's been saying. He asks what Olga would say if they could reach the capital instantly. With a confident grin, he asks if his new friend is willing to take the chance. Before Olga can answer, he can only manage a confused "huh?" In a flash, they are standing on a paved street in the grand capital. Nearby, a young woman with bear-like ears hums a happy tune. Kursha, the guild receptionist, joyfully skips along, celebrating her day off. She recalls the stressful days at the guild, caused by Kake's new business. But today is a holiday and she is determined to forget all about work. She approaches a street vendor with a bright smile, ordering an ice cream. Suddenly, Kake and Olga materialize before her, and she screams in terror. She stumbles back in shock as Kake asks what she is doing here. Olga, still processing the teleport, apologizes, realizing he's not dreaming. He stares up in awe at the magnificent sight of the real Zephrel castle. Kake tries to handle the situation while Olga is completely starstruck. He can't believe he's actually traveled from the village to the capital. Kursha looks between them, asking Kake who this mysterious person is. She asks if Olga is his friend, amazed to see a real beast person. With a professional smile, she introduces herself and tries to recruit Olga. Olga is immediately smitten, blushing at her cute business smile. Kake grabs him, telling Kursha he needs to explain his magic to his friend. Kursha asks Kake if he knows the cute girl he's with. She smiles warmly, inviting Kake to visit the guild again anytime. Kake grins back, promising that he will definitely stop by again. With a whoosh of displaced air, they vanish, leaving Kursha looking up. They reappear in the tranquil, rolling hills surrounding Holland village. Olga stumbles back onto the grassy ground, completely disoriented. Kake calmly explains that this is essentially how his power works. He tells Olga that with his magic, distance is no longer a concern. Olga looks at him with a new respect, admitting that it seems so. He clutches his head, asking for a moment to process the impossible. He accepts they can travel, but asks if Kake has a plan to sell the tomatoes. Kake confidently lists his business connections and his magic's preservation ability. Olga's final doubt remains. Will his tomatoes really sell in the big city? Kake looks at him, wondering why he's suddenly so full of doubt. He teases Olga, asking if his first sight of the capital scared him. Olga flinches, clearly annoyed that Kake hit a nerve. He tells Kake to shut up, wiping a bead of sweat from his brow. He demands to know what benefit Kake gets from this venture. Kake declares his only goal is to help the village become more prosperous. He tells Olga that helping the village is his own personal reward. He closes his eyes, thinking of the home he has found here. He explains his deep love for the village and his desire to be useful. He feels he received so much from this place when he had nothing. He is determined to try everything he can before giving up. He passionately declares Holland's vegetables will be famous across the country. He turns to Olga, his back to him, and simply asks for his trust. Olga is left speechless, stunned by the depth of Kake's conviction. He runs a hand through his hair, overwhelmed and flustered by the plea. He tells Kake not to be so dramatic when persuading another guy. Kake turns back, asking if he needs to hear his resolve again. Olga asks one last time if he's absolutely sure the tomatoes will sell. Kake states with unwavering confidence that they will indeed sell. Olga is taken aback by his immediate and absolute certainty. A slow, confident smile spreads across Olga's face as he finally agrees. He says that if Kake is that certain, he's willing to give it a try. He wants to test for himself if his tomatoes can make it in the capital. Kake's face breaks into a wide, joyous grin as he calls out Olga's name. Olga interrupts, rubbing his fingers together as imaginary coins rain down. He insists that farmers need to earn a living too. Kake smiles softly, agreeing that money is very important. Olga extends his hand, ready to seal their new business partnership. Kake looks on with a warm, satisfied, and hopeful expression. They shake hands, Olga counting on him, and Kake promising to deliver. An ornate floral border frames the beginning of their new shared venture. Olga insists the mud on Kake's hand was an accident, not a prank. The next day, a new ambitious chapter begins in the peaceful Holland village. Young Nina energetically works the hand pump, sending water splashing into a bucket. With a soft shimmer of air, Kaki suddenly teleports right beside the startled girl. Nina's initial shock quickly melts into a wide, joyful grin of recognition. Kake jogs up the path with a smile, cheerfully greeting his young friend. He asks if her parents, Gleg and Stella, are around, and she points to the fields. Nina cups her hands, shouting for her parents that Kret has come to see them. Apologizing for the interruption, Kake is told by Gleg that it's no bother. Kake clarifies that his visit has nothing to do with his own garden. He explains to the curious couple that he is here on another matter entirely. He looks out over the idyllic fields, ready to make his grand proposal. Gleg is utterly stunned when Kake suggests selling their crops in the capital. Sitting in the garden, Gleg wonders if their ordinary vegetables could possibly sell. Kake leaps to his feet, passionately insisting their produce is far from ordinary. He composes himself for a moment, ready to make his case with conviction. He praises the incredible size, thickness, and sweetness of their remarkable leeks. Gleg is taken aback by Kake's intense fervor for their everyday vegetables. Kake also mentions how easy their unique potatoes, the gaimo, are to grow. The unique checkered pattern of the gaimo leaves is shown in detail. Gleg begins to understand that what is normal to them is special to Kake. Kake proudly announces he has already secured the village chief's permission. He recalls his promise to Riloy, explaining this is his way of giving back. He adds that the plan includes Olga's tomatoes and other village specialties. Gleg is surprised, asking Kake when he and the prickly farmer met. Nina is thrilled to hear that they will be selling Olga's tomatoes as well. She beams with pure joy, declaring how much she absolutely loves them. Kake smiles warmly, agreeing that he loves them too. But this is business. Gleg's expression turns serious as he asks about Kake's company connections. Kake confirms that he belongs to the Emilio company and will sell through them. Gleg is shocked, recognizing the name as the most successful new merchant company. He admits he has heard of them, though he tries to appear nonchalant. He recalls rumors of a company growing at a seemingly impossible speed. He feels relieved knowing a powerful and trustworthy company is involved. Kake looks at his friend earnestly, asking if he will agree to the plan. Gleg grins, declaring that he could never refuse a request from his friend. He adds that the extra income would be a wonderful thing for them. Kake's face shines with pure gratitude as he thanks his friends profusely. He eagerly asks if there are any other crops the villagers are proud of. Gleg proudly offers to take him on a grand tour of the village's farms. The tour begins with Gleg introducing Kake to another proud local farmer. Kake is delighted by a slice of incredibly sweet giant watermelon. They continue their journey, visiting a field of tall, healthy corn. A vibrant collection of produce is gathered, showcasing its impressive quality. Back in his house, Kake surveys the magnificent bounty he has collected. He feels a wave of anxiety, knowing he has to impress his business partner. He thinks about how agonizingly delicious all of the village's food is. He knows he must choose carefully to make a strong impression on Emilio. His expression hardens with resolve, understanding the weight of this meeting. He is confident Emilio will listen, but knows his friend is ruthlessly logical. Emilio is a man who won't hesitate to reject a plan without clear profit. Kake knows tomorrow's discussion will be the key to the entire venture's success. The next day, the scene shifts to the grand, sprawling capital of Zephrel. Kake teleports back to his magnificent city mansion, a modern stone building. Sunlight streams through a large, immaculately polished window pane. Inside, his headmaid, Elsa, is diligently cleaning the window frame. Her expression is serene and focused as she goes about her duties. Kake bursts into the room, cheerfully announcing that he has returned. Elsa turns to greet him, her long hair flowing from the sudden movement. Kake is momentarily surprised by her calm reaction to his sudden arrival. She welcomes him home with perfect professional poise, addressing him as master. He marvels at how quickly she has adapted, praising her incredible competence. He asks if there were any issues, and she confirms that all was quiet. Elsie listens as he says he's heading out to see Emilio at the company. She begins to tell him something important about his business partner. "Welcome back, Kret," a familiar, charming voice says from a nearby sofa. Kake is flabbergasted to find Emilio already relaxing in his drawing room. He reflects on how quickly everyone has gotten used to his teleportation. Emilio notes how refreshed Kake seems after his time in the village. He admits he is sometimes jealous of Kake's peaceful, rustic lifestyle. Kake cuts him off, stating he has something important he wants to sell. Emilio is intrigued, asking what Kake has brought back so proactively. With a dramatic flourish, a massive pile of produce appears on the floor. Emilio is stunned, asking what this is, as Kake explains its origin. A small, dismissive sound escapes Emilio's lips as he assesses the pile. He stands to leave, but Kake desperately grabs him, begging him to wait. Kake insists he must at least listen, arguing that crops are products too. Emilio's expression turns sharp, asking if the villagers put him up to this. He warns that if it's just a favor, it won't be profitable for them. Kake firmly states that the villagers would never ask for such a thing. He declares he would never be disloyal to the village or to Emilio. Emilio listens, his gaze softening as he sees his friend's conviction. He apologizes for his rudeness, admitting that he was out of line. He states that the basics of business require a proper assessment first. With a charming smile, he agrees to hear Kake's full business pitch. Kake's face lights up, ready to present his proposal to his friend. Emilio listens intently as Kake begins to explain his plan. He nods, immediately grasping the core of Kake's unique discovery. He admits that many of the vegetables are varieties he's never seen before. Kake explains that the villagers believe these incredible crops are ordinary. Emilio realizes this is a blind spot in his vast information network. And that's precisely why, Kake declares, we have to sell them. He passionately outlines their business model: buy low and sell high. Emilio smiles, impressed by his friend's newfound business acumen. He concedes that Kake is right and that he now understands the potential. However, he points out that the most important factor is the taste. Kake's face is a mask of pure confidence as he readily agrees. Emilio knows that no matter the sales pitch, the taste is the ultimate factor. The flavor itself must be the most powerful tool of persuasion. Kake knows that the taste of this first leek will determine everything. Kake insists Emilio must first try the village's giant leek raw. Emilio agrees, noting the leek's impressive size before taking a taste. He pops the crisp white slice of leek into his mouth. A satisfying crunch echoes as Kake watches him, awaiting his verdict. A close-up shows Emilio's eye widening in complete and utter shock. He exclaims that it's unbelievably sweet and simply melts in his mouth. Kake describes its versatility as Emilio praises his excellent marketing sense. Emilio, now intrigued, declares that he wants to try the tomato next. With a crisp sound, he takes a large bite of the unique tomato. He chews thoughtfully, the rich flavor flooding his experienced palate. A blissful, satisfied smile spreads across his face as he savors it. Emilio declares it's as sweet as a fruit. Kake agrees it's moving. He praises its rich taste and perfect balance, so different from city tomatoes. Inspired, Kake turns to his headmaid Elsa with a request. He asks her to make a soup with the tomato, giving in to desire. The other maids gather excitedly as Kake decides to continue the tasting. After their meal, Kake asks Emilio if he thinks the produce will sell. Emilio pauses, dabbing his lips with a napkin, preparing his final verdict. He first apologizes, admitting these are no mere souvenirs he has tasted. He declares all of Holland's crops are super grade and will certainly sell. Kake is overjoyed as Emilio confirms he's brought something truly special. Emilio proposes an exclusive contract to sell all of Holland's produce. He asks Kake to help with the busy sales push ahead of them. The chapter begins with a beautiful view of Holland's mountainous landscape. The village gate opens to another peaceful day with no signs of trouble. Gleg, on guard duty, remarks on the pleasant, unchanging peace. Kake suddenly teleports beside him with a loud and startling greeting. Gleg jumps back in shock as Kake apologizes for his sudden appearance. He complains that teleporting is bad for his heart, but Kake just smiles. Kake admits with a grin that he was getting a little bit of revenge. Gleg asks why he has returned, and Kake says it's about business. Kake announces he went to sell everyone's precious crops in the capital. Gleg grabs him, frantically asking if their crops managed to sell. Kake calms his friend down, saying he is about to explain everything. He asks Gleg to gather all the villagers in the central square. Kake waits, knowing the villagers are surely anxious for the results. The people of Holland begin to gather nervously around the central well. The village elders murmur anxiously, their faces etched with worry. Kake is surprised by the large turnout, including the farmers' families. He understands they are all worried about the fate of their crops. The pressure gives him a stomachache, reminding him of his old job. A sharp voice suddenly calls out his name from within the crowd. It's Olga, the tomato farmer, looking incredibly tense and on edge. He grabs Kake, demanding to know what happened to his tomatoes. Olga says he couldn't sleep. Kake tells him to calm down and listen. A young woman pulls Olga back, telling her brother to stop it. Kake is surprised, not realizing Olga even had a sister. Olga introduces his sister Mira, who helps him on the farm. Kake finds it unexpected that Olga has a sister helping him out. Kake politely introduces himself and Mira greets him with a nod. Olga points out that an unattached young woman is a rare find here. He slyly tries to set Kake up with Mira, much to her fury. Kake quickly rejects the forced matchmaking, telling Olga to stop joking. As Mira gives her brother a noogie, Kake's attention is drawn away. Nina tugs on his sleeve, her eyes wide with concern for the villagers. She points out that some people have fainted from the sheer stress. Kake apologizes to the anxious crowd for making them wait so long. He announces that he will now get straight to the results of his trip. He feels the immense, silent pressure of the villagers' expectations. He thinks about the pressure, a result of his own ambitious plan. He remembers they entrusted their precious crops to him, a newcomer. Steeling himself, he knows he has done everything that he possibly could. The villagers watch him, their expressions a mix of hope and fear. Kake announces he was unable to sell their crops at the market. Gleg and Stella are stunned into silence by the seemingly awful news. Olga and Mira look on, their faces a mask of shock and dismay. The entire village square falls silent as the bad news sinks in. Kake pauses for a moment, letting the dramatic tension build. He clarifies that it wasn't a failure, but a deliberate choice. Olga looks completely baffled, a bead of sweat on his brow. He demands to know what Kake means by his confusing statement. The scene flashes back to Kake and Emilio discussing their business plan. Emilio asks Kake what kind of food their company typically sells. Kake hesitates for a moment before answering his partner's question. He lists rare fish, monster meat, and other exotic high-end delicacies. A sudden realization dawns on him as he reviews their product line. He notes they don't sell common meats or vegetables, wondering why. Emilio states flatly that it's because those are available everywhere. He explains rarity sells, but common goods don't profit in the capital. Kake understands that branding common vegetables as cheap and tasty won't work. Emilio admits their plan will be difficult, but not entirely impossible. Kake is relieved to hear there is still a chance for success. Emilio reveals his master plan: sell directly to restaurants, not the market. Not just any restaurants, he clarifies as Kake questions the idea. They will target high-class establishments that cater to nobles and royalty. They can piggyback on their existing contracts for other rare ingredients. With their reputation and Kake's magic, quality won't be an issue. However, Emilio adds a crucial point to his ambitious strategy. He states that their current plan is still not enough to succeed. Other merchants are strong, and they lack a definitive winning edge. Kake realizes they need a flamboyant sales pitch and a taste test. He grits his teeth, acknowledging that his partner is absolutely right. He knows he must contribute his own ideas to truly repay the villagers. He racks his brain for a standout sales idea, feeling the pressure. Elsa quietly offers him another cup of tea, her presence a calm constant. Kake watches her, a thoughtful silence falling over him as he thinks. He observes her graceful movements as she prepares the steaming tea. A spark of an idea, a sudden of dawning realization. He turns to his maid, a look of brilliant inspiration on his face. Looking at Elsa, he wonders if this idea just might work. A grand ornate building stands tall, the stage for a high-stakes business venture. An announcer asks the esteemed representatives from various restaurants to form an orderly line. Rasha cheerfully holds a sign, announcing the last call for the Emilio Company's tasting. A maid in a beautiful kimono politely serves a long line of waiting chefs. Rival merchants watch, noting the impressive line and the staff's eye-catching, unusual attire. Kake remarks to Emilio that their ambitious sales pitch seems to be a huge success. Emilio smiles, admitting to Kake that he was honestly surprised by his bold proposal. Kake laughs humbly, surprised himself that he had come up with such a plan. In a flashback, Kake explains his idea for a flashy promotion using the maids. He asks his partners if having the maids act as poster girls is a bad idea. Emilio and Elsa are both stunned into silence by his unexpected and audacious suggestion. Elsie, caught off guard, asks if he is truly referring to the maids. Kake immediately panics, retracting his statement and telling them to forget he said anything. He mentally scolds himself, worrying his idea was inappropriate sexual harassment. Emilio, however, lets out a soft chuckle, beginning to understand Kake's clever strategy. He teases Kake, calling it a rare idea from someone he thought was getting stale. With a broad, confident smile, Emilio agrees that it is not a bad proposal. He explains that having beautiful women serve the mostly male chefs is a good hook. Kake worries about the ethics, but Emilio insists it's not like they're seducing nobles. Emilio clarifies that this event is a disguised war between competing merchant companies. He admits, however, that just having beautiful servers is not quite strong enough. Kake agrees the idea is too weak, which is why he has another suggestion. He proposes that the maids serve the guests while wearing his homeland's traditional clothing. Emilio acknowledges Kake's rare Eastern heritage, agreeing the attire would be eye-catching. Kake explains that while he can't get originals, he can have similar garments made. Emilio places his teacup down, clearly intrigued by the brilliant and unique idea. A sharp, appreciative smile crosses Emilio's face as he considers the potential. He declares that the idea is quite interesting and definitely worth trying out. Kake thinks thankfully that Emilio never pushes back too hard against his wild ideas. Emilio turns to Elsa, stating that they must first get her and the others' consent. Elsie, with perfect professional composure, simply states that she understands and accepts the task. Kake is surprised, confirming she is fine wearing another company's uniform to serve clients. He presses her, asking if she is truly okay with it, given her noble status. Elsie calmly explains she was told by Emilio to be useful to his company's cause. She pauses for a moment, her expression thoughtful before she continues her explanation. Kake sits on the couch, listening intently to what she has to say. She says that since he asked for so little, it's natural to help when he is in need. Elsa looks at him directly, telling him that he should feel free to rely on her more. Kake is touched by her devotion, whispering her name in quiet admiration and gratitude. Emilio watches the exchange with a satisfied, knowing smile, his arms crossed in approval. Emilio says that now they just need to hear from the remaining 3 maids. The other 3 maids are revealed to be eagerly listening in from the doorway. They excitedly ask what Master Kret's traditional homeland clothes are like, and if they are cute. Elsa calmly confirms to the excited maids that this is indeed their new task. With everyone in enthusiastic agreement, Emilio declares that the matter is officially settled. Emilio's expression turns serious as he explains there is one more detail to address. He states that they need to add a special touch to the food they serve. Back at the event, a chef is amazed by the large, incredibly sweet leek. A female chef is delighted by the juicy tomato, saying it's too good to cook. Another chef, beaming with joy, shouts, "Bravo!" and eagerly asks for another serving. Emilio observes that the plan to win them over with the tasting was a great success. He playfully tells Kake not to feel pressured as his secret plan is next. Elsie approaches in her kimono, announcing the special dish is ready for service. Kake turns his head, a simple ah of acknowledgement on his lips. Els presents the tray of food, and Kake thanks her, saying he's counting on her. A chef notices the wonderful smell and asks Elsa if he could have some. Els offers him a bowl of the dish made with the vegetables, and he thanks her. He looks down at the bowl, intrigued and curious about the unfamiliar dish. He notes that it's not pot au feu and wonders what kind of dish it could be. Elsie explains it is a traditional Eastern stew with gaimo, pork, and tomato. She explains it's made only with their company's vegetables and invites him to eat. The chef takes his first bite, his expression one of pleasant and utter surprise. Flowers seem to bloom around him as he declares that it is absolutely delicious. He praises the warm, delicate dish, noting how it enhances the vegetable's sweetness. He immediately asks to discuss the dish and a long-term contract for the vegetables. Emilio smoothly steps in, thanking the chef and taking over the contract discussion. The crowd recognizes the man as Chamonter, a notoriously discerning and famous chef. They murmur that he is a top-class chef from a 5-star restaurant. The other maids, dressed in their kimonos, politely approach the other waiting chefs. They smile and ask the other guests if they would also like to try a sample. Kake stands alone, flanked by ethereal images of his smiling mother and father. A fond, hazy memory of his smiling mother comes to his mind. A similar warm memory of his father's kind and smiling face follows. He sees them both together, looking upon him with warmth and affection. In the present, Elsa stands beside Kake, remarking on the event's incredible success. The chefs are all buzzing, eager to sign contracts with the Emilio company. Elsie credits the dish Kake suggested as the spark that led to their success. Kake lets out a quiet of relief and perhaps a bit of exhaustion. Kake explains the dish is just a hearty home recipe from his homeland, Nikujaga. A diagram shows the Holland-style Nikujaga using gaimo, leeks, and tomatoes. He smiles, recalling that his family's version of the dish always included tomatoes. Elsie agrees that while not traditional, the dish is definitely better with tomatoes. Kake's expression turns somber as he realizes it's the flavor of a cherished memory. A gentle, distant smile appears on his face as he remembers something precious. He recalls his mother making it for him, adding tomatoes because he loved them. He turns to Els and sincerely thanks her for helping him recall this precious memory. He thanks her for her hard work in recreating the flavor and preparing the food. Elsie modestly insists that the achievement belongs entirely to Master Kret, not her. She smiles warmly, saying that she was simply happy to have been of service. Kake and Elsa stand together, sharing a quiet moment amidst the successful event. Kake blushes slightly, touching his ear as he processes her kind words. His expression becomes thoughtful as he reflects on the deeper meaning of their success. He knows he couldn't have accomplished this on his own, crediting his friends. He feels that if his old culture created this success, his new life has meaning. He realizes this helps him remember the many good memories, not just the painful ones. He wonders if this accomplishment was his own way of finally giving back to others. The story moves to Holland Village, where Kake must report his success. Kake stands before the anxious villagers, explaining the situation that led to this moment. Olga and his sister Mira look on anxiously, asking what the outcome was. Kake grins, announcing that the capital's high-end restaurants will be regular buyers. The villagers of Holland stand frozen, their faces blank with stunned silence. Their shock finally breaks in a collective, drawn-out shout of disbelief. Olga grabs Kake, desperately asking if their crops truly sold in the capital. Kake beams, reminding Olga that he promised they would absolutely sell. Olga stares at his friend, the incredible news slowly beginning to register. Overcome with emotion, a choked sound of joyous relief escapes his lips. He throws his fists in the air, letting out a triumphant roar. The entire village erupts with him, celebrating their shared victory together. An old farmer laughs, amazed that their vegetables held such incredible value. Kake watches their pure, unadulterated joy with a gentle, satisfied smile. Olga stops him, needing to clarify one last important thought. He realizes that if their produce sold for that much in the capital, then the other merchants had been knowingly buying them for cheap. His sister Mira agrees with her brother's angry, dawning realization. Gleg and his family arrive, noting the incredible success of the venture. Stella's face beams with pride as she agrees with her husband. Mira explains that selling fresh produce in the city had seemed impossible. Olga reluctantly agrees that the logistical challenges were always too great. Gleg explains that it's more than money. They now see their own value. He bows deeply to Kake, offering his most sincere gratitude. Kake, flustered, insists he only sold something he knew was good. Nina looks up at him, insisting he did much more than that. She exclaims that she's never seen everyone in the village so happy. Kake looks out at the crowd, seeing the joy through her eyes. His own eye reflects the profound emotional impact of the moment. He sees the entire village, a sea of smiling, hopeful faces. The older men of the village are laughing, their faces filled with delight. The women chat happily among themselves, their spirits clearly lifted. The whole community is united in a shared sense of accomplishment. Kake murmurs to himself that it's just as Nina said. The village chief, Reloy, steps forward to speak for everyone. On behalf of the village, she offers Kake their deepest, heartfelt thanks. She says he has revitalized their community and brought them hope. The other villagers chime in, thanking the impressive young man. Kake, embarrassed by the praise, tries to wave it all off. He explains that he feels he's finally contributed to the village. Gleg and his family are shocked to hear he felt this way. Gleg insists he doesn't need to worry about such difficult things. He says just enjoying life with them is more than enough thanks. Stella smiles warmly, agreeing completely with her husband's sentiment. She tells Kake not to worry, as having him around is fun. Reloy gently reminds him of her advice from their previous talk. She repeats that he should feel free and not be burdened. He should just live a carefree life, she says with a smile. A single emotional tear wells up in Kake's eye. He remembers the lonely, sleepless nights from his previous life. He recalls the painful memories he had always held on to. He remembers the crushing solitude after his father had passed away. He had forced himself to stop looking back, to bury the pain. But now he clutches his chest, struck by a powerful realization. It was meeting the wonderful people of this village that changed him. He feels he has finally been able to repay their incredible kindness. Olga slings an arm around him, asking if he's crying. Kake hides his face, insisting that he isn't crying. He looks up, grinning through his tears, declaring the village is the best. He is no longer lonely, he says with a bright, joyful smile. Gleg, seeing his friend's happiness, declares it's time for a celebration. The villagers decide to throw a potluck party at Kake's house. The celebration moves to Kake's charming stone and timber home. Reloy raises her glass, proposing a toast to their continued success. The villagers clink their glasses together in a resounding cheers. The house is filled with joyous celebration, food, and laughter. Olga and Mira raise their glasses high, joining in the toast. Olga takes a large, satisfying gulp of his drink, laughing heartily. The women bring out more delicious, homemade food for the feast. Kake, Gleg, and Nina laugh together, enjoying the wonderful party. The night grows late, the party winding down under a starry sky. After the guests leave, Kake wipes down a wooden table. He reflects that the women helped clean everything up so quickly. He thinks back on the wonderful events of the night with a smile. He recalls seeing a very drunk Gleg being helped home by Stella. He muses that's what a long-married couple must look like. Gleg passed out, so Stella had to carry him all the way home. He realizes it's the first time since childhood he had people over. He sits on his porch looking out at the peaceful, quiet night. He feels a profound sense of contentment and belonging in his heart. He decides to step outside to enjoy the cool night air. He looks up at the breathtaking, star-filled sky above the village. He walks out into his yard, noting how clear the sky is tonight. He sits down on the wooden steps of his porch to reflect. He decides that this two-hub life has been a great start. Working with Emilio isn't bad, and it brings a sense of fulfillment. He is certain that he is truly and honestly fulfilled now. In his past life, work and relationships were things to be endured. He had lost so much, which led to a tasteless, empty life. But now he will strive to seize a happy life with everyone. A small, contented smile plays on his lips as he thinks. He sits on his porch at peace under the vast, starry night sky. The village church stands as a silent sentinel in the starlight. He smiles knowing he has finally found his place in the world. He will continue his two-hub life between the city and the country. The next morning, the sun shines brightly through the forest canopy. Kake and Gleg have found a beautiful, untouched mountain stream. The water is crystal clear, rushing over the smooth gray stones. Kake points, amazed at the sheer number of fish in the stream. He exclaims that it's a magnificent stream, perfect for summer camping. Gleg agrees, noting that Kake's magic makes visiting easy. He adds that as summer gets hotter, the fishing will get better. Kake is thrilled when Gleg offers to teach him the best spots. Kake explains he has to go to the capital this afternoon. Before Kake must return to work, Gleg suggests they have some fun. With a sly look, Gleg asks if Kake brought that thing. Kake grins, confirming he has the special tool ready to go. He reveals his simple cooking set and a magical fire-starting device. Kake presents a pot of vegetables he already sliced this morning. Gleg shows his own contribution, a basket of sausages and fresh eggs. He also brought bread and butter from Angelica, calling it demonically delicious. When Gleg suggests toasting bread, Kake wisely advises against using the oily pan. 2 pots are set over the crackling campfire on the rocky shore. A delicious breakfast sizzles away: toast, sausages, and sunny-side-up eggs. Kake happily announces that everything is cooking up perfectly. He suggests some mugwort tea, which Gleg agrees would be nice. Gleg pulls a net full of chilled thermoses from the cold stream. They begin plating the perfectly cooked sausages and fresh lotus root. Their simple camp table is set with a hearty, delicious breakfast. The 2 friends sit by the stream, enjoying their meal in nature. Sunbeams slice through the high canopy of the beautiful, dense forest. Kake takes a large, satisfying bite of the freshly toasted bread. He remarks how incredible it is to have breakfast out in nature. As he eats, a sudden splash from the stream catches his attention. He sees a large fish leaping from the crystal-clear water. A moment of profound peace settles over him as he watches. Kake sighs contentedly, admitting he doesn't want to go to work. Gleg is instantly alarmed, asking if something bad happened at his job. Kake explains his work is flexible and pays well, so he's not unhappy. He confesses the village is just so comfortable he's getting lazy. Gleg admits that since Kake's arrival, his own farm work has become easier. Kake asks if he's become a burden, but Gleg waves the thought away. Gleg explains that the work of providing for his family is a happy burden. He advises Kake to savor these relaxing times to maintain a good balance. Kake agrees wholeheartedly, a bright, understanding smile on his face. He decides it's time to head back after they finish their meal. A panoramic view shows the idyllic, rolling hills of Holland Village. With a simple word, Kake teleports Gleg back toward his home. They arrive safely outside Gleg's charming, flower-covered cottage. Gleg thanks him for the ride, and Kake says the breakfast was fun. Kake prepares for work, asking Gleg to send his regards to Stella and Nina. Gleg muses that Kake is now a hard-working man of the capital. He offers a final, enthusiastic shout of encouragement to his friend. Kake smiles broadly and says, "Yes, I'm off." Gleg watches with a fond expression as Kake vanishes in a spatial warp. Some time has passed since Kake's arrival, and summer has begun. He is now used to his two-hub life between the capital and countryside. 2 places that should never have met are now linked by his magic. Just as everything was going smoothly, a new development arose. Kake teleports into the opulent headquarters of the Emilio Company. He greets his business partner with a cheerful, "Good morning, Emilio." He finds Emilio sitting silently at his desk, staring out the window. Emilio looks unusually subdued, his usual energy replaced by exhaustion. Kake is confused by his friend's quiet and uncharacteristic demeanor. Emilio finally turns, snapping out of his thoughts with a start. He seems surprised to see Kake, who looks on with concern. Emilio forces a bright smile, welcoming Kake and noting he's early. Kake looks unconvinced, a bead of sweat on his temple. Emilio asks if Kake is all right, but Kake asks what's wrong with him. Kake bluntly states that Emilio is clearly just overworked. Emilio's expression turns playful as he asks Kake for a small favor. Kake immediately grows wary, stating that it depends on the request. Emilio laments how cautious Kake has become, but Kake insists it's obvious. Emilio reminds him of the last dangerous mission Kake blindly accepted. He smirks, noting the huge profit they made from that very mission. Emilio reassures him this request isn't so terrible, and Kake looks skeptical. Kake stands before the desk, asking what Emilio wants this time. Emilio's eyes light up as he asks Kake to take him to Holland Village. Kake is surprised by the unexpected request to visit the village. Emilio explains that the village produce is selling out, becoming a key product. He wants to meet the farmers to build trust and discuss future business. Kake understands the necessity of face-to-face meetings in this world. A diagram shows that without the internet, direct contact is essential for business. In a world built on personal connections, his teleportation is a key asset. Kake feels guilty, realizing the villagers must be curious about their new partner. He admits that since he brought them the deal, he should have suggested this. Emilio looks at him, a small knowing smile on his face. His smile widens slightly, touched by his friend's sincerity. He tells Kake that he's truly a very dutiful person. Emilio reassures him that it's a profitable venture, so it's natural he'd ask. Kake thanks him and agrees to take him to Holland Village. Emilio suddenly gets a bright idea, a light bulb appearing over his head. He suggests bringing goods to sell, but Kake immediately rejects the idea. Kake realizes this would make Emilio's visit entirely about sales. He understands Emilio's logic is correct, but he still feels uneasy. He worries about introducing his sharp city friend to the villagers. Kake hesitates, feeling a sense of unease about the trip. He notices Emilio seems more anxious than usual, his hands clasped together. Kake sees the dark circles of exhaustion under his friend's eyes. He suggests they can handle the sales pitch another time. After all, he can visit the village whenever he wants. Emilio argues that building trust now will make future business smoother. Kake looks down, admitting that Emilio has a good point. Emilio decides they should at least bring a small gift for the villagers. He puts on his coat, turning to his friend with a new plan. With a charming smile, he asks Kake to come shopping with him. Kake agrees and they head out into the busy city streets. They walk through a vibrant outdoor market filled with fresh produce. The two friends browse a stall overflowing with delicious-looking pastries. Kake carries their purchases, a happy and excited Emilio beside him. They stop to rest in a quieter part of the city. Emilio offers Kake a treat, holding up an ice cream cone. He says it's payment for Kake accompanying him on a shopping trip. They enjoy their ice cream, ready to embark on their journey together. Emilio suggests they take a break before embarking on their long journey. Kake jokes he should monopolize Emilio before the villagers claim all his time. Emilio clarifies he only desires Kake's magic, but is fond of him. Kake looks at his friend, a sudden, concerned realization dawning on him. He notes that Emilio appears to be his usual, energetic self on the surface. However, he reflects that he has never once seen his friend actually resting. Kake concludes that the workaholic is pushing himself and must be exhausted. While snacking, Kake realizes this trip is more than just a business meeting. He hopes the visit will give his friend a chance to finally relax. Emilio looks weary, anticipating the important diplomatic mission that lies ahead. The new chapter begins, promising an eventful trip for Emilio to the village. With a shimmer of magic, Kake teleports them, announcing their safe arrival. Emilio takes in the rustic scenery, confirming this is indeed Holland Village. A villager on guard duty recognizes Kake and asks about his guest. Kake introduces Emilio as the merchant from the capital selling their crops. Emilio offers a charming smile, introducing himself as the company's president. The guard is flabbergasted that such an important man has come to visit. Another villager asks if their instant arrival was another of Kake's spells. He muses how much money he could save if he could travel like that. The guard points them towards the homes of Andre and Olga. Emilio observes that Kake seems to get along well with the villagers. Kake blushes, insisting that the people here are just genuinely good-hearted. Emilio looks on, thoughtfully considering his friend's earnest words. He notes that even arriving unannounced, he felt no hostility from them. The villagers' welcoming nature is quite special, as such places are often insular. He explains that many remote communities are extremely wary of any outsiders. Kake realizes he's noticed this trend from his teleportation travels with Emilio. He understands this warmth is why his memories of Holland are so precious. Kake decides it is time to formally introduce his friend to the community. With a proud gesture, he officially welcomes Emilio to Holland Village. Emilio breathes in the country air, a soft breeze rustling his hair. A beautiful panoramic view of the idyllic village unfolds before them. Kake smiles, happy and proud to share this special place with him. Emilio's eyes widen slightly, captivated by the tranquil beauty of the valley. He observes the rich nature, the abundant food, and the open-hearted people. He agrees that it is a fine village, understanding Kake's decision to live there. Kake beams with pride, delighted to hear his friend's earnest praise. He admits he's happy that someone as sharp as Emilio approves of his home. Emilio suggests it is time for them to go and meet the farmers. Kake plans to guide him first to Andre's home, the leek farmer. Emilio recalls that this is the family Kake is always speaking of. From a distance, two young village girls spot the handsome newcomer. Emilio turns to them, offering a dazzling smile that seems to bloom flowers. The two girls are instantly smitten, blushing furiously and clutching their hearts. Emilio chuckles at their pure and cute reaction as they scurry away. Kake quickly warns his friend not to use his charm at Andre's house. He explains that the family has an extremely protective father and husband. Kake worries that Emilio's sophisticated charm is too much for young Nina. A flash of understanding and determination appears in Emilio's eyes. He reassures Kake that he would never cause trouble for his important friends. Kake approaches a rustic cottage, calling out a cheerful greeting to Nina. Nina looks up from her work, recognizing Kake but not his companion. The three of them stand in a moment of slightly awkward, comical silence. Emilio wonders why Kret seems to be so interested in a young girl. Kake asks Nina to fetch her parents, explaining his companion is from work. Kake nervously warns Emilio not to mention their earlier strange conversation. The charming cottage is seen, with beautiful white flowers climbing the walls. Gleg and Stella appear, shocked to see a merchant from the capital. Emilio formally introduces himself as the president of the Emilio Company. He explains he wanted to personally greet the farmers who supply their crops. Gleg is surprised, having heard of the famous company even out here. Emilio humbly accepts the compliment, honored to be known so far away. Stella is impressed that such a young man has become a company president. Gleg thanks them for visiting, amazed they arrived instantly via Kret's magic. Emilio smiles at Kake, remarking that the villagers are truly good people. Gleg explains they were just happy to finally meet the person selling their crops. He introduces himself as Andre, his wife Stella, and their Gaimo farm. He points out his daughter Nina, working diligently in the background. Emilio praises the incredible size and quality of the leeks Gleg grows. He politely asks if he might see how they are cultivated. Gleg is thrilled by the request and enthusiastically invites them on a tour. He then offers to show them the other farms in the village. Kake is impressed by how smoothly Emilio guided the conversation to his advantage. Emilio admits that he is actually quite bad at making small talk. Kake realizes his earlier anxieties about his friend's skills were unnecessary. Their tour begins, showing the rustic farmhouses nestled against a rocky cliff. They walk alongside tall fields of grain under a bright and sunny sky. In the distance, Gleg gestures proudly while speaking with a captivated Emilio. The tour concludes at a large, charming farmhouse with a stone chimney. An empty glass is slammed down with a satisfying thud on the table. Emilio declares the juice delicious and immediately demands another glass. The village men are impressed by the slender man's surprising capacity for drinking. Emilio confidently states that he often makes business deals over drinks. Gleg is delighted by his new friend's spirit, encouraging him to drink more. Kake watches the impromptu party, wondering if this is normal business practice. He worries that Gleg's wife Stella will be angry at his drunkenness. Olga arrives with a tray, announcing that the tomato dishes are ready. The table is quickly filled with an array of vibrant tomato-based foods. Olga insists they must understand his food's taste to sell it properly. The other villagers, hearing this, have a collective moment of realization. They become fired up, offering to share their own family recipes as well. Kake is happy to see everyone excited and ready to enjoy the feast. Emilio looks on, slightly surprised by the sudden, passionate culinary competition. Olga explains that cooking with tomatoes, especially grilling them, is unusual here. He passionately describes how grilling brings out umami and complements cheese. Kake and Emilio take a bite of the grilled tomato dish in unison. They are both completely blown away, exclaiming how incredibly delicious it is. Olga explains that while simply roasting them is good, this is even better. Kake is so impressed that he begs Olga to sell him a whole box. Emilio remarks that Olga truly knows the best way to enjoy tomatoes. Emilio smirks, agreeing it's the natural course of action while teasing Kake. Kake listens intently, his expression thoughtful as he processes the idea. Kake turns to his companions, ready to ask a crucial, overlooked question. He asks under what names they will sell the other village crops. Emilio and Mira are both startled, realizing they have overlooked this detail. With a sudden jolt, Emilio recognizes the absolute importance of branding. Mira beams brightly, declaring this was the very reason for her visit. Emilio passionately argues that selling nameless crops is an incredible waste. Kake calmly agrees, noting a brand name is essential for success. He recalls premium brands from his world, like Special Melons and Leeks. Emilio realizes with a sweat drop that the name was a major oversight. Mira says she will think about it before changing her mind entirely. She cheekily demands they announce the new brand names right now. The villagers get drunk and argue passionately about the branding decision. Kake protests, flustered at the demand to invent names so suddenly. Mira suggests using the region or producer's name, a common practice. Kake considers the options, suggesting Holland tomato or something else. He playfully suggests Olga tomato, causing Olga to erupt in fury. Olga screams in embarrassment, while Mira thinks the name is quite cute. Mira thoughtfully considers Holland tomato as an acceptable alternative name. Emilio argues Holland is too generic. Olga's personal brand is more valuable. Overwhelmed by the debate, Emilio clutches his head in frustration. He turns away from the others, stating he needs a moment to think. He stands with arms crossed, concentrating intensely on finding a solution. Emilio snaps, blaming Kake for getting Olga tomato stuck in his head. A peaceful night falls over Kake's charming house in the village. The new brand names are finally decided, including the infamous Olga tomato. Kake happily cleans his home, too full from the feast for dinner. He recalls with amusement how Olga blushed bright red upon agreeing. A sudden noise from the balcony catches his attention, making him look up. Emilio stands alone on the balcony, gazing at the quiet nightscape. Kake quietly speaks his friend's name as he watches from the door. Kake offers a cup of mugwort tea, which Emilio graciously accepts. A brilliant full moon hangs high in the clear star-dusted sky. Two simple cups rest on the railing, a quiet toast to the day's work. Kake insists Emilio must be the tired one, but Emilio disagrees. Emilio holds his cup, remarking on the peaceful, relaxing village atmosphere. Kake explains that here, one can live at their own pace. Kake's enthusiastic agreement startles Emilio, who grips his cup tightly. Kake cheekily invites Emilio to move in, an offer he quickly refuses. Emilio smiles wryly, admitting that is exactly what he would say. A memory shows Emilio and Rodney walking down a busy capital street. Suddenly, a discarded object is thrown, flying right past their heads. An angry older merchant confronts them, blocking their path forward. The merchant angrily curses the Emilio company, his face contorted. He blames them for his failed contracts, but Rodney advises ignoring him. Emilio remains impassive, completely ignoring the merchant's furious outburst. Emilio explains that such resentment is simply a consequence of becoming famous. Kake listens with a concerned expression, turning to look at his friend. Emilio reassures him, knowing Kake's kind nature makes him worry. He tells Kake that it's better for him not to know. Emilio says visiting the village has reaffirmed his business convictions. He declares with renewed passion that his company will grow even bigger. His eyes gleam, he has no intention of being limited by the capital. Kake admires his friend's relentless drive, feeling he should learn from it. Kake smiles, acknowledging that this ambition is what defines Emilio. Emilio offers the village as a sanctuary for Kake whenever he's tired. Kake looks at his friend, surprised by the genuine offer of support. A slight, knowing smile spreads across Kake's face as he replies. He promises to teleport Emilio to the village whenever he needs a break. He cheekily adds that he will, of course, charge a fee for it. Emilio teases him about a friends and family discount, which Kake flatly denies. Emilio announces his departure, surprising Kake, who thought he would stay. Emilio points out that Kake's magic makes the return trip instantaneous. Kake understands, knowing his friend is eager to return to his work. Kake agrees, calling Emilio boss as the scene pans over the village. The next day dawns, showing Kake's charming stone and timber house. A new chapter begins with Kake squatting in his overgrown garden patch. The garden plot is a chaotic, overgrown mess of weeds and wildflowers. Kake squints with determination, surveying the daunting task of weeding. He sighs, realizing even his magic won't make this large task easy. Nina cheerfully calls out to him, and he greets her with a smile. She asks if he is weeding the garden, and he confirms it. He thinks to himself that this cute but tedious job is unavoidable. Nina clenches her fist with determination and offers to lend a hand. Kake is shocked but delighted by her offer, readily accepting her help. Nina proudly boasts that she is incredibly fast when it comes to weeding. She demonstrates her skill, yanking a weed out with impressive speed. He is impressed by her speed and proper technique, getting the entire root. Inspired by her diligence, Kake resolves to redouble his own efforts. The sun shines brightly in a sky dotted with fluffy white clouds. Soon the garden is completely cleared, the dark soil freshly prepared. Kake and Nina cheer, celebrating their quick and successful teamwork. Kake stretches his aching back, amazed by Nina's boundless youthful energy. He fans himself, noting the intense summer heat of the village morning. He sincerely thanks Nina for helping him without a single complaint. Surrounded by sunflowers, Nina gives a radiant smile and says he's welcome. Kake is moved by her kindness, thinking to himself that she's an angel. He suggests a water break, an offer Nina enthusiastically accepts. He smiles and invites her inside his house to escape the hot sun. Nina remembers her chore, telling him to wait while she gets her basket. He realizes she was on her way to gather firewood before helping him. As thanks, he offers to help her gather the firewood in return. He explains that his family also gathers their own wood for bonfires. The bright summer sun shines down on the roof of his house. Inside, a metal bucket filled with freshly made ice sits on the table. Nina drinks the ice water, joyfully exclaiming how refreshing it is. She expresses her envy over his house having ice, a rare summer luxury. She presses the cold glass to her cheek, enjoying the cooling sensation. Kake laughs, delighted by her simple and endearingly childish reaction. Kake suggests they get going, mentioning that his throat is getting dry. Nina, weary from the heat, agrees to do her best to avoid worrying her mother. A sudden thought strikes Kake, and he exclaims that he just remembered something. He calls out to Nina, who looks up at him with a curious expression. Nina lets out a surprised cry as Kake presses a cold, wet towel to her cheek. She exclaims how cold it feels while he suggests wrapping it around her neck. She thanks him profusely, calling him a lifesaver for his clever idea. A cicada drones loudly from a tree, its song filling the hot summer air. Kake and Nina begin their walk along a familiar path into the forest. Kake observes the lack of firewood, wondering if others have already gathered it. He realizes this safe, nearby entrance is likely the most popular spot for villagers. He cheerfully suggests they teleport deeper in, delighting Nina with the idea of magic. They materialize in a wilder part of the forest, beside a rushing rocky stream. Kake lands gracefully on the grassy bank after their instantaneous journey. He asks Nina what she thinks, and she exclaims at the abundance of firewood. Nina runs off happily as Kake notes how cool and refreshing this new spot is. He watches her with a fond expression, thinking about her easygoing nature. He reflects that Nina's curiosity is never diminished by his incredible magic. He tells her to gather as much wood as she likes, as he can carry it. He opens his void storage, instructing her to place the firewood inside the portal. Nina happily tosses the collected wood into the swirling vortex of his pocket dimension. She remarks on the strange feeling of it disappearing, and he agrees it's normal. He assures her it's convenient, and she praises his impressive adaptability. Nina suggests they look for edible mushrooms, a proposal that catches Kake off guard. He dramatically asks Professor Nina if she is an expert on the local fungi. He asks if she would teach him, and she enthusiastically agrees to show him. She eagerly leads the way deeper into the woods, with Kake calling after her. The dense, beautiful canopy of the forest stretches out high above them. Kake notes how fulfilling the morning has been, and Nina agrees they worked hard. He suggests they rest at his house, and Nina excitedly requests some ice. The scene shifts to the charming, rustic roofline of Kake's new village home. Their boots are left neatly by the door as they step inside for a break. Kake presents Nina with a tall, ornate glass filled with ice and amber liquid. Nina asks if it's mugwort tea, but Kake explains that it is iced tea. He shows her a small tin of black tea leaves he purchased in the capital. She notes its pleasant aroma, remarking how different and good it is. She takes a long, refreshing sip of the cold drink, as Kake observes. She declares that it isn't sweet, a simple and honest childhood assessment. She quickly adds that it's easy to drink, and he agrees with a smile. He explains it pairs well with sweets as he opens a rectangular cookie tin. Nina gasps in delight at the sight of the assorted, beautifully decorated cookies. She happily nibbles on a cookie, savoring the delicious, crunchy treat. She covers her mouth, her eyes closed in a moment of pure culinary bliss. She exclaims how delicious the cookies are, and he is happy she likes them. She finds the tea tastes better this way. He calls it the adult method. She looks at him with admiration, remarking on how amazing he is. She wistfully says there are so many things in the capital she doesn't know. Kake is struck with guilt, realizing he got carried away showing off. He reflects that he took advantage of her pure reactions because they were cute. He lets out a quiet, frustrated sound, feeling bad for his thoughtlessness. Nina, looking downcast, begins to say something else to him. Kake impulsively asks if she would like to go to the capital right now. He immediately looks surprised and a bit flustered by his own sudden offer. Nina's eyes widen in absolute shock, her mind struggling to process his words. He stammers to himself, wondering why he just blurted that out so suddenly. Nina's face explodes in a radiant smile, asking if he is being serious. He agrees, remembering his promise, as Nina celebrates her dream coming true. She suddenly stops, realizing she must get her parents' permission first. With a determined smile, she says she understands and accepts the condition. She runs out the door, vowing to secure her parents' permission for the trip. Kake watches her go, noting her admirable determination to also bring the firewood. He grimaces, realizing the overprotective Gleg will surely never allow the trip. He resigns himself to having to apologize sincerely when the plan inevitably fails. Stella and Nina appear at his door, and Nina joyfully exclaims they can go. Kake is completely dumbfounded by this unexpected and impossible turn of events. He nervously asks about Gleg, and Stella cheerfully admits she hasn't told him. Stella explains with a bright smile that she wants Nina to see the world. She believes the experience will be a treasure for Nina, and she trusts Kake. Kake bows his head, humbled and flustered by her profound trust in him. Stella pats a happy Nina's head, promising to handle explaining things to Gleg. She formally asks Kake to please take good care of Nina on the trip. Kake realizes Stella is doing this purely for Nina's sake, and is deeply moved. He quietly thinks to himself that Nina is lucky to have such a good mother. With renewed resolve, he smiles warmly and agrees to her heartfelt request. He confidently promises to create the best memories for her precious daughter. He formally states that he will take good care of their precious daughter. Stella and Nina are delighted, but Stella has one more thing to add. She playfully warns him not to get killed by Gleg when they return. Kake is about to leave, but Stella stops him, telling him to wait. Nina panics, realizing her hair is sweaty and she wants to dress up more. She runs back inside to get ready, leaving a stunned Kake and Stella. Stella apologizes for the delay and asks him to wait just a little longer. Kake smiles, realizing he hadn't considered that a 10-year-old is still a girl. He lets out a quiet, thoughtful sound as he waits patiently for her. Looking at his own house, he decides he should probably change his clothes too. He buttons up a clean, crisp shirt, preparing for his role as chaperone. Dressed smartly, he thinks this clean look won't embarrass a young girl. He hears Nina call his name, announcing that she is ready and waiting for him. He peeks out from a doorway, asking if she's finally prepared to go. A close-up of Kake's eyes shows his utter shock at what he sees. Nina stands in the doorway, completely transformed into a stylish young lady. She nervously asks him what he thinks of her new and elegant look. She worries if her outfit looks strange, her expression filled with anxiety. Kake is left speechless, trying to find the right words to describe her. He is struck by the overwhelming power of Stella's beautiful genes. Nina asks again if she looks weird, and he quickly snaps out of it. He reassures her that she looks great and that he was just surprised. He tells her she won't look out of place walking around the capital. He enthusiastically says she's more beautiful than any girl in the entire city. He sighs, admitting that while she was cute before, this is a new level. Nina beams, declaring that girls are amazing when they get all dressed up. Kake playfully wonders if she would be incredibly popular dressed like this normally. She confidently retorts that these fancy clothes are completely useless for farm work. Such an outfit, she decides, is only for special days like harvest festivals. Kake thinks to himself that Harvest Festival is an interesting name for an event. Nina then apologizes for keeping him waiting for so long. Stella appears, explaining her daughter was so excited that she got completely carried away. As Stella fusses over her hair, Kake realizes she must have styled Nina. Stella gently asks Nina if she is sure she wants to go, not just relax. Nina panics, exclaiming that she doesn't want to waste a single moment. She frantically pushes Kake toward the door, insisting they need to hurry. At the threshold, Stella calls out to Kake, her expression turning serious. She gives a deep, formal bow, asking him to please watch over her daughter. Kake smiles warmly, assuring her that she can leave everything to him. With a final wave, Nina and Kake say goodbye, promising to bring souvenirs. Stella smiles, telling Nina to have fun and stay close to Kret. In a shimmering distortion of space, Kakei and Nina teleport away. They arrive greeted by a magnificent, sprawling view of the capital city. A tall, elegant stone clock tower rises above the surrounding rooftops. The cobblestone streets below are filled with people going about their day. Kakei and Nina materialize in an alleyway, Kakei announcing their arrival. Nina looks up, her mouth forming a perfect circle of silent astonishment. An extreme close-up of her eye reflects the sparkling, breathtaking cityscape. The Grand Zafrael Castle sits majestically on a hill overlooking the city. Both Kakei and Nina stare upwards, their faces filled with pure awe. They stand beside a grand fountain, taking in the beautiful, bustling scenery. With Kakei holding her hand, they gaze up at the towering clock tower. Nina turns her head, trying to absorb all the new sights and sounds. She clutches her hands together, a little overwhelmed by the scale of it all. Kakei notices her expression, asking if she's feeling nervous now that they're here. Her initial apprehension explodes into a shout of pure, unadulterated joy. Kakei facepalms with a smile, realizing his worries were completely unnecessary. Nina points up, exclaiming at how incredibly tall all the buildings are. She gestures down the street, amazed by the sheer number of fancy shops. She looks at the crowd, marveling at how many people fill the city. Kakei watches her, smiling as he notes her boundless delight in everything. He looks on thoughtfully, contemplating her unrestrained excitement. He notes that, for all her curiosity, she shows no signs of being shy. He realizes, to her, everything in this city must seem completely new. Her energy is almost too much, and he tells her not to get lost. Scratching his cheek, he begins to see the city through her eyes. A memory flashes through his mind of his own arrival in his funeral suit. He recalls that his own feelings were more excitement than anxiety back then. He understands that Nina, in this moment, is feeling just as he did. Nina looks up at the massive clock tower, letting out a gasp of wonder. She exclaims at the tall building, and Kakei confirms it's the clock tower. He explains that it uses magic to keep the whole city on schedule. Nina is impressed, but Kakei admits he prefers the slow pace of the village. He asks if she wants to go inside, but she seems distracted. A beautiful, glowing butterfly flutters past, capturing her full attention. She exclaims at its beauty, and Kakei explains it is simple projection magic. Their attention is drawn to a street magician welcoming children to his show. The magician tips his hat, announcing the start of his wonderful illusion show. He presents his empty top hat to the eager, smiling children. With a dramatic flourish, a massive bouquet of flowers bursts from the hat. The magician sends a shower of flowers and magical lights into the air. Nina joyfully reaches out and catches a large white lily from the sky. The air around the fountain fills with a magical cascade of falling flowers. She holds the flower gently, whispering how incredibly beautiful it is. Leaning against Kakei, she sighs happily that the capital is truly amazing. Kakei watches her, a gentle smile on his face, happy she is enjoying herself. He feels a small twinge of regret, wishing he had brought her sooner. He playfully deflects her praise, saying his teleportation magic is nothing special. Nina insists his magic is amazing, but he just laughs it off as a joke. He asks if she is content to just stay here in the square. He then asks if there is any other place she would like to go. Nina thinks for a moment, then decides a place selling food would be best. Kakei is surprised, but she explains food is the easiest thing to understand. He realizes her logic is sound. The vast city is too overwhelming otherwise. He agrees that food is the most familiar and relatable starting point. He decides to guide her to the city's bustling central market district. The chapter begins with a title page showing a lively European-style street. Nina marvels at the endless buildings and the huge crowds of people. Kakei makes a mental note to adjust his pace to match hers. He points out two imposing figures in the crowd, a lizard man and a wolfman. He's impressed that Nina knows what they are, calling her a diligent student. She beams, admitting she's read about them, but has never seen them in person. She finds them cute rather than scary, which makes Kakei smile. He explains that beastmen come in many forms, some more human-like than others. He muses that such sights are rare in her remote village. He tells her they are likely to see more near the Adventurers Guild. A gruff voice calls out, recognizing Kakei as the teleportation guy. The wolfman turns, recognizing his lizardman companion, Waldorf. Nina looks up, confused by the strange nickname Kakei has been given. The adventurers are surprised to see him with a child, asking who she is. Gardolf teases that the girl is far too cute to be related to Kakei. Nina realizes these imposing figures are Kakei's friends from work. Waldorf asks Kakei to help them with transport for their next guild job. Nina is impressed, realizing how much people rely on Kakei's help. Gardolf turns his full attention to Nina, his muscular form sparkling. He crouches down, asking if this is her first time seeing other races. He offers to let her touch his fur, and her face explodes with joy. He agrees, but with one condition: she cannot touch his tail or belly. Nina tentatively reaches out her hand and touches his furry arm. She buries her face in his arm, exclaiming how wonderfully soft it is. Gardolf blushes with pleasure, while the stoic Waldorf simply calls her cute. Kake puffs out his chest proudly, then wonders why he's the one bragging. Nina, emboldened, asks if she can touch the forbidden tail. Kake jokingly asks if he can touch it too, earning a fierce snarl from Gardolf. Kake laughs, remembering how this same adventurer had groveled after their aerial confrontation. The imposing adventurer, Waldorf, asks Nina if she would like to touch his scales. Nina, full of wonder, gently touches his arm, exclaiming how smooth it is. Kake smiles, thinking to himself how unusual it is for a child not to fear Waldorf. Nina tells Waldorf that his kindness is his greatest charm, making her happy. In another part of town, the Thunderclap Blade wonders why Kake's teleport service is on break. Gardolf tells Kake to let them know when he's back, as they have work for him. The Wolfman gives Nina a gentle pat on the head, bidding the little lady farewell. Waldorf says next time he will introduce Kake to some other demi-human friends. As the adventurers depart, Nina and Kake wave, promising to see them again. Nina happily tells Kake that his work companions were very nice people. She thinks about his different jobs, surprised he had such varied acquaintances. Looking up at him with admiration, she says it's amazing he's relied on by so many. Kake smiles warmly, simply agreeing with her observation. He tells her that being needed by others is a truly happy feeling. He thinks of the many people he has come to rely on in this new world. He reflects on his lonely past and the importance of connections over mere money. Deciding to continue their tour, he asks if she wants to go to the market. A grand view of the capital city spreads before them, the castle in the distance. Nina points at all the new sights as they walk through the bustling streets. An overhead view reveals the market street is packed with people and vendor stalls. Their feet tread upon the well-worn cobblestones of the busy city path. The market is a vibrant scene of commerce with shoppers browsing fresh goods. A flower vendor calls out from behind a dazzling display of colorful blossoms. Nina gasps in awe, completely overwhelmed by the lively atmosphere of the market. She exclaims with wide eyes that there are so many shops everywhere. Kake explains that the capital is where all the region's finest ingredients gather. Nina is amazed as she has never seen so much food sold in one place. Kake considers how remote Holland Village must rely on traveling merchants for goods. He admits to himself that even he is a little overwhelmed by the market scale. Nina suddenly calls out, having spotted a fish with an interesting, strange face. Kake identifies the large striped fish on ice as a saltwater creature called a suo. Nina is impressed by his knowledge, guessing he must have come from the sea. Her jaw drops when she sees the price tag, exclaiming that it costs 8 silver coins. Kake explains the high cost is from mages using ice magic for transport. A woman nearby adds that it's cheaper to eat local specialties at their source. Suddenly, an idea flashes in Nina's mind, a light bulb of realization. Kake is amazed she deduced his business model of buying low and selling high. He muses that she has a good head for business and might do well in the capital. Nina's eyes shine as she excitedly asks if he really thinks so. She grabs his arm, asking if she could make a living in the capital as an adult. Kake is taken aback, realizing she dreams of leaving the village someday. He is flustered and unsure how to answer her earnest question. Nina quietly wonders if a future beyond farming vegetables is possible for her. Kake looks at her, his expression turning serious and contemplative. He recalls Riloy's words about how the city lures away the village's young people. He remembers that Gleg and others had also left when they were young. Riloy's voice reminds him that Nina won't be a child forever and may leave someday. He feels a little sad, but accepts that children have their own futures to choose. He resolves to support her decision, though that day is still far away. Nina's voice calling his name breaks him out of his deep thoughts. She excitedly points to a vegetable stall, eager to go have a look. He smiles, happy to see her acting like a child again as she runs ahead. Her eyes land on a bin of produce, and she stops, a puzzled look on her face. She asks if the long, thin vegetables are meant to be leeks. She innocently turns to Kake and asks why they seem so small. The gruff shopkeeper overhears and angrily shouts at her for being rude. Nina tries to compliment the produce's quality, but the man is still angry. Kake quickly grabs Nina and apologizes profusely to the shopkeeper for her. The old man stares for a moment, his anger slowly starting to subside. He apologizes for losing his temper with the child, admitting he was out of line. Kake tells Nina it's time to go, and she quietly follows him away. As they walk away, Nina asks if she said something strange or wrong. They sit on a bench where Kake reassures her that she wasn't being strange. Nina feels guilty that Kake had to apologize for her. Kake looks at her, preparing to explain the difference in their perspectives. He tells her that neither she nor the shopkeeper were wrong in what they said. He explains that Holland Village's leeks are, in his opinion, the most delicious. However, he continues, not every place can grow leeks of that quality. For the shopkeeper, he explains, the smaller leeks are what is considered normal. He cheerfully tells her it's just a difference in common sense, nothing to worry about. A vertical transition panel marks a slight shift in the scene's tone. Nina still feels bad, saying she'd hate it if someone insulted the leeks she grew. Kake suggests they look at other vegetables to see the capital's unique variety. Nina's face lights up and she agrees to update her common sense. She turns to him, her expression filled with genuine gratitude. Thanks to him, she says, she is having a lot of fun making new discoveries. Kake smiles, agreeing that gaining new experiences is very important. He declares they should make the most of their time and have fun exploring. A title card for Chapter 27 appears over a quaint, flower-lined stone staircase. A close-up shows Nina's stomach rumbling loudly. Kake and Nina walk up the stone steps, enjoying ice cream cones. Nina laughs, announcing that her stomach is rumbling because ice cream wasn't enough. Kake asks if there's anything else she would like to eat. He is visibly flustered by her immediate and specific request. Nina says she would love to go to a stylish restaurant she couldn't normally visit. Kake thinks it's funny she's not ashamed to admit her hunger. He realizes that this is a very city-like request for her to make. He considers that for a girl from a village without restaurants, this is a big deal. He steels himself, deciding he must step up and fulfill her wish. Nina beams, asking with sparkling eyes if they can go right away. She asks him to guide her to a stylish place, and Kake internally panics. He stands frozen for a moment, his mind a complete blank. He screams in his head that he doesn't actually know any stylish places. He admits to himself that as a loner, he wouldn't know where girls like to eat. He clutches his head in despair, lamenting the lack of a smartphone for help. He mentally crosses off formal business restaurants and rough guild taverns. His eyes suddenly widen as a brilliant idea finally strikes him. He pictures a place that's stylish, relaxing, and serves a delicious lunch. He turns to Nina, ready to propose his alternative solution. He asks if his own house in the capital would be an acceptable substitute. Nina's eyes widen in realization, asking if Kret has another home here. Kake boasts that his maids can cook restaurant-level food. Overjoyed, Nina declares she wants to see his other house. With a happy smile, Kake decides their next destination is set. He asks her to wait a moment, gently taking her by the hand. A swirl of spatial energy envelops them as they teleport away. They reappear on a high balcony overlooking the entire capital city. Nina leans over the railing, gasping at the magnificent view. Kake tells her he will be right back after making some preparations. He worries about leaving her but knows his maids need time to prepare. He decides to teleport quickly before Nina gets bored. They walk down a quiet, elegant cobblestone street lined with beautiful homes. A massive multi-story stone mansion looms before them. Nina stares through the ornate iron gates, completely awestruck. She asks if it's a castle, but he reassures her it's just his house. As they enter the grounds, Nina excitedly points out the grand fountain. Kake opens the heavy front doors, announcing that he is home. 4 maids, led by Elsa, greet him with a perfect, synchronized bow. Nina is shocked to see real maids, and Kake proudly introduces them. Elsie introduces herself as the head maid, in charge of Master Kret. The first maid to be introduced is the bright-eyed Alshi. Next is the quiet, sleepy-looking Lulua. Finally, the friendly Rasha, her hair in braids, is introduced. Elsa formally states that they will be taking care of Nina today. Nina beams, introducing herself and saying she's happy to be here. Her pure, unaffected charm completely flusters the usually composed Elsa. Elsie regains her composure, offering a warm and professional welcome. Kake is pleased, noting that Elsa seems to like children. The maid Rasha offers to show them to the dining room. Nina asks if she should take her shoes off like in the village. Kake smiles, explaining that it's fine to wear shoes in this house. Nina happily scampers inside, excited to explore the grand mansion. Elsa quietly comments on how bright and cheerful Nina is. Kake agrees, saying she's a good kid, though he's heard rumors. Els remarks that Nina is younger than she expected for his lover. Kake is completely stunned by the sudden, absurd accusation. He sputters in denial as Elsa asks if she has misunderstood. Elsie explains Emilio told her about his close female companion. Kake frantically explains that Nina is a child, just a friend. Els asks why he's so sure their relationship won't progress. He points out their 17-year age gap, asking if that isn't strange. Elsie explains such age gaps are common among the nobility. Kake vehemently insists that their relationship is not like that at all. He trails off, still reeling from the incredibly awkward conversation. He beckons for one of the other maids, Rasha, to come over. Rasha asks what he needs while Elsa looks on impassively. He asks Rasha if he really seems like someone who likes little girls. Rasha is flustered, saying his reaction is the most hurtful part. Nina lets out a gasp of wonder as she enters the dining room. The room is vast and elegant, with a long, pristine dining table. She exclaims that it's like a castle and bounces on the plush carpet. Elsa informs him the meal is ready and asks if she should serve it. Kake tells Nina to take a seat as lunch will be served shortly. Nina sits patiently at the head of the enormous, empty table. She wiggles in her seat, humming with happy anticipation for the meal. The wheels of a serving cart roll smoothly across the polished floor. Two maids approach the table, pushing the cart with a warm smile. They place a silver cloche and cutlery in front of the waiting Nina. With a flourish, one of the maids lifts the lid, saying, "Pardon me?" Nina's eye widens as she sees the magnificent meal beneath. A beautiful spread of sandwiches, salad, galette, and clams is revealed. Nina whispers that it looks delicious as a maid stands by. The maid lists the dishes: galette, garlic butter, seafood salad, and more. Nina is overjoyed, laughing at the names of foods she's never heard of. Kake admires the meal, noting its unpretentious but luxurious quality. He turns to his head maid, addressing her by name, Elsa. He quietly thanks her for preparing such a wonderful meal on short notice. Elsa replies that it's no trouble, as she is always prepared. Kake is impressed by her unwavering perfection and professionalism. Another maid suggests cider, but Kake orders juice for Nina instead. Nina looks up from her seat as Kake addresses the maids. He dismisses them, saying they can leave him and Nina alone for now. Elsie bows, saying to call if they should need anything. The maids exit the room, closing the grand doors behind them. Once they are alone, Nina lets out a huge sigh of relief. She admits she was nervous around such kind and beautiful people. Kake confesses he's still not used to it, which surprises Nina. She says he seems perfectly normal, though he admits it's better than before. He laments his commoner roots, finding it hard to order people around. He then looks over at Nina, saying he's glad she came. Nina says at first he seemed like a stranger from another world. Kake listens to her words, a gentle, understanding smile on his face. He reassures her that he's still himself and this is his home. He tells her not to worry about manners and to enjoy her meal. With that, they both happily say, "Let's eat," to begin their lunch. A title card for Chapter 28 shows Nina looking out from the mansion. After lunch, Nina and Rasha admire the pretty flowers in the garden. Elsie approaches Kake as he watches them from a nearby doorway. She offers him something, suggesting he take it if he would like. She hands him a folded paper, a list of shops Nina might enjoy. She suggests it might be good to visit if he's unsure where to go. The list includes clothing, accessory, glass, and sundry shops. Elsa explains there's a simple map, and Kake is amazed by her competence. He thanks her sincerely, admitting this is a huge help for him. He tells her to enjoy herself while he takes Nina back to the village. He calls out to Nina, telling her it is almost time for them to go. Nina turns to Elsa and Kake, looking hesitant to leave. She gushes that the meal was incredibly delicious. She wants to bring some back for her parents to try. Elsie smiles warmly, saying it would be her pleasure to pack some. Elsie informs a shocked Nina that Master Kret has a souvenir for her. Kake explains his magic keeps it fresh, so she can share it with her family. Overcome with joy, Nina clasps her hands together and gives a radiant thank you. Elsa is sure Nina's parents will be delighted, and Kake agrees, moved by her happiness. Kake feels bringing Nina was the right choice, as Elsa offers future hospitality. With a gentle tone, Kake tells a shy Nina that it is time to go. Elsa and the maids give a formal bow, wishing them a safe journey. Nina waves back enthusiastically, shouting a cheerful thank you to the maids. As they walk away from the mansion, Nina continues to wave her goodbyes. They arrive in a charming, unfamiliar part of the capital with elegant buildings. The architecture is grand and ornate, a stark contrast to Kake's usual haunts. They walk down a stylish cobblestone alley filled with fashionable city women. Nina is completely captivated by the new sights, letting out a gasp of wonder. She stares at a beautiful shop display, whispering how amazing everything is. The buildings are adorned with striped awnings, lanterns, and lovely flower boxes. Nina points out all the cute and wonderful shops that surround them. Kake is surprised, realizing for the first time that such a place existed. He stands in an alley, absorbing the refined and unfamiliar atmosphere. He notes the calm architecture and the many shops that appeal to women. He credits Elsa's stylish taste, admitting he would never have found this alone. Nina tugs on his sleeve, getting his attention with a cheerful, "Hey, Kret!" She asks hopefully if they have enough time to just walk down the street. Looking up at him, she admits she really likes this kind of place. Kake happily agrees, saying he wants to explore more too. Nina cheers. With an excited skip in her step, Nina leads the way down the street. They pass beneath an ornate iron archway connecting the timber frame buildings. Kake walks beside a beaming Nina as they enjoy the sights of the district. Through a shop window, two women can be seen admiring the displays inside. Nina presses her face against the glass of another shop, peering intently. She gasps in awe, her hands framing the view of a stunning dress. She whispers how beautiful it is, with Kake looking on beside her. Kake says this is the glass artisan Elsa recommended, asking if she wants to go in. Just as he reaches for the door, Nina suddenly pulls him back with a yelp. He asks what's wrong, and a flustered Nina tells him to go in first. She squeezes her eyes shut, feeling the shop is too stylish and embarrassing. Kake muses that a cute girl like Nina would find it easier to enter than him. He sighs and opens the door, with Nina peeking cautiously from behind him. Nina's eyes widen in amazement as she takes in the shop's interior. The room is filled with magnificent glass sculptures of a bear and a phoenix. In the back, the craftsman sits at his desk, meticulously working on a piece. Nina loves the atmosphere, while Kake notes the artisan works entirely alone. She spots a transparent glass rabbit, exclaiming her delight at its beauty. Kake looks around for other pieces as Nina continues admiring the displays. He leans in to get a closer look at a large, abstract sculpture. He marvels at an impressive, life-size glass bear sculpture on display. His eye catches another, stranger piece, and he lets out a sharp gasp. He is immediately captivated by a glass sculpture of a slime monster. With comical seriousness, he thinks it's amazing and decides he must buy it. He looks up at a display shelf filled with other beautiful glass items. He is shocked to discover the slime figures come in 10 different colors. Nina makes her choice, pointing decisively at the small glass rabbit sculpture. Kake asks if it's the rabbit she saw first, and she happily confirms it. He cheerfully offers to buy it for her, but she quickly refuses his offer. She proudly holds up a small pouch, explaining she has her own allowance. Kake realizes Stella gave her money so she could experience buying things herself. He smiles to himself, thinking it's a good lesson for her to learn. Using her own money will create a special and valuable memory for her. He agrees to her decision, saying they should go pay for their items. The shop's bell jingles as the owner thanks them for their purchase. Nina teases him about buying so many slimes, and he can only grunt. He admits that such things really appeal to his inner child, making Nina giggle. Clutching her purchase, Nina declares that shopping is fun and her rabbit is so cute. He suggests putting her fragile new treasure in his void storage for safety. Nina happily declines, saying that would take all the fun out of it. Filled with excitement, she asks Kake if they can visit more shops. Kake, caught up in her energy, agrees that he's getting into the spirit. He declares they'll shop everywhere that interests them, and Nina happily agrees. He reflects that, while it's reckless, he has been completely charmed by her. The chapter title page shows a beautiful storefront, hinting at their next stop. Inside a boutique, tables are laden with jewelry, hats, and other accessories. Nina agonizes over a display of hair clips, groaning that every color is cute. Kake watches her, wondering what she is so worried about choosing. He suddenly understands the reason for her intense deliberation. He identifies the items as flower-themed hair accessories, a gift for a girl. He suggests she just pick her favorite color, as any of them would suit her. Nina explains it is a souvenir for her mother, so she wants a color that suits her. Kake pictures Stella and agrees that Nina's thoughtfulness is very touching. Nina is still struggling, saying all the beautiful colors are making her dizzy. Kake suggests she just buy 2 different kinds to solve her problem. Nina points out that if she does, she can't buy a gift for her father. Kake imagines Gleg would be moved to tears by the thought alone. Kake suggests she pick her father's gift first, then choose a clip. She agrees. She wonders what her father would even want, thinking of his favorite things. An image of a happy Gleg appears. They both know the answer is alcohol. Nina realizes she probably can't afford a bottle of wine with her allowance. Kake has a sudden flash of inspiration, a perfect solution to her problem. He suggests a wine glass instead, which the shop also sells. Nina is excited. An elegant ceiling with beautiful light fixtures hangs above the glassware. A shelf displays many different shapes of glasses. Nina asks Kake for his opinion. Kake tells her it's better if she decides, seeing she is flustered. He smirks, thinking if he chooses, he will just pick the most boring one. Nina makes a quick decision, picking up a simple rounded glass. She declares it looks easy to wash, a very practical and domestic choice. Kake asks about the price, noting she can now only afford one hair clip. A shot of the accessory counter with various beautiful items on display. Nina stands before a mirror, trying on one of the hair clips. With a triumphant pose, she decides on a color. Kake thinks it's a good choice. She chose orange, thinking it would look beautiful in Holland Village's scenery. Kake asks her which other colors she had been considering at the end. She points to a delicate light blue flower clip on the counter. Kake smiles, telling Nina he will go and buy the gift. He thoughtfully considers the delicate hair accessories displayed before him. The flower-shaped clips are intricate, a perfect choice for a present. With their purchase made, they thank the shopkeeper and depart. As dusk falls, the capital's streets begin to fill with people. A river of footsteps flows along the cobblestone, the crowd growing. A large crowd has gathered in the main square for an event. From a higher vantage point, the sheer size of the gathering is clear. Kake is shocked by the massive, dense crowd surrounding them. He wonders aloud what is happening to draw so many people. They are quickly swallowed by the throng, looking small and vulnerable. He realizes he lost track of time, and it has grown dark. He tells Nina it is getting late and they should return home. Suddenly, a bright light illuminates the sky in the distance. A deafening boom startles Kake, his eyes wide with shock. A familiar voice calls his name. It's Kirsha from the guild. Kake turns, a bead of sweat on his temple, surprised to see her. The crowd surges, and he realizes with horror that he has lost Nina. He shouts her name, desperately reaching his hand into the crowd. Nina, frightened, cries out and reaches her small hand towards him. He firmly grasps her hand, pulling her back from the shifting crowd. He pulls her close, shielding her from the jostling people around them. Nina apologizes, explaining she was swept away by the large crowd. Kake tells her he's sorry, just relieved that she is safe. They find a spot and watch the fireworks burst over the city. The brilliant light of the fireworks illuminates the night sky. He realizes the commotion is for a magnificent fireworks display. He remarks on the crowd but admits the view is spectacular. Nina is completely mesmerized, her eyes sparkling at the beautiful sight. In the midst of the spectacle, her small hand moves closer to his. She gently takes his hand, a quiet gesture in the bustling crowd. Their hands are now linked as they watch the colorful explosions. Kake looks down at her, sensing her quiet, wistful mood. With tears in her eyes, she asks if they can stay longer. Kake looks at her with a gentle, understanding smile. He explains her parents will worry if they are any later. She tries to be brave, saying it is not a once-in-a-lifetime chance. He promises to bring her again using his magic, surprising her. Kake confirms his promise, his voice soft but certain. With a warm smile, he tells her that it is a promise. Her face begins to break into a wide, joyous expression. She beams, her eyes squeeze shut in happiness, confirming their promise. She vows they will absolutely come back together to see this again. The final embers of the fireworks fade into the night sky. The view shifts to the peaceful, star-filled sky over Holland Village. In a flash, they teleport back, arriving in the familiar yard. Nina is happy to be back, and Kake enjoys the fresh air. They agree that while the trip was fun, it's relaxing to be home. The sound of a door bursting open startles them both. Gleg rushes out, tears streaming down his face, wailing Nina's name. He hugs her tightly, asking if anything scary happened to her. Nina reassures her father that she was safe with Kake. Gleg is about to continue, but Nina interrupts him. She excitedly tells her father how amazing the capital was. She recounts the buildings, magic, diverse people, and fireworks. She also tells him about the amazing and stylish food they ate. She concludes that the entire day was like a dream and so fun. Gleg looks at his daughter, his heart swelling with pride. His joy is quickly replaced by a suspicious glare aimed at Kake. He continues to stare, his overprotective instincts taking over completely. Stella appears behind him, delivering a swift chop to his head. She scolds him for looking at Kake that way, taking responsibility. Gleg grumbles his assent, looking away with a pout. Nina smiles, knowing her father can read her expression so well. Gleg turns to Kake, sincerely thanking him for looking after Nina. Kake smiles, saying he had fun too and was keeping his promise. Kake suggests the whole family should go together next time. Kake playfully asks if Gleg is scared of the capital. Gleg denies it, and Kake muses about the burdens of old age. Suddenly, Kake is struck with a brilliant idea. He whispers to Nina, suggesting the gift might calm her father down. Nina turns and calls out to her mother and father. With a grand gesture, she presents the souvenirs she bought for them. Gleg is emotionally overwhelmed by the present from his daughter. Stella loves the hair clip, and Gleg is thrilled with his glass. Stella firmly tells her husband he is not allowed to drink daily. Stella says anything Nina chose for her would have made her happy. Kake watches the family's happy exchange with a thoughtful expression. He thinks to himself that this must be what being a parent is like. He reflects that he should have given his own father more gifts. But he realizes there are still things he can do now. He offers them a freshly prepared meal from the capital as a gift. The family gratefully accepts his offer to stay for dinner. As Nina's about to go inside, Kake calls out to her. He asks her to hold out her hand, much to her confusion. Her eyes are wide with curiosity as she looks at him. He gently places a small, flower-shaped hair clip into her hands. He explains that he thought it would look good on her too. She looks down at the beautiful gift, her heart fluttering. She clutches the small clip to her chest, a happy blush on her cheeks. Her smile is shy but filled with pure, unadulterated happiness. She turns to him and quietly thanks him for the thoughtful present. She pins it in her hair and asks if it looks good on her. Kake smiles warmly, telling her that it looks great on her. Stella notices her husband standing silently, a strange look on his face. Gleg simply looks on, his expression filled with a quiet emotion. Kake and Nina share a moment of pure, innocent laughter together. Gleg thinks to himself that he really needs to thank Kret again. The peaceful village house marks the beginning of a new chapter. The next morning, Kake rests, content in his new village home. Since his day out with Nina, Kake realized something important. He was completely ignorant about how to have fun in the capital. If Elsa hadn't offered suggestions, he would have been utterly lost. Living a two-hub life, it's a shame to only enjoy one side. In a world without internet, he felt handicapped by his modern habits. He lay in bed, pondering his next move with quiet determination. He recalled Elsa's knowledge of the capital. She had excellent taste. With a new idea forming, he felt a surge of purpose. "All right," he declared, springing out of bed with sudden energy. He decided his first step would be to ask Elsa for guidance. He teleported, arriving in the grand, familiar streets of the capital. He made his way toward his own impressive city mansion. "And so I've arrived," he announced, striding inside with purpose. He would learn her pastimes as a shortcut to finding his own. Bursting through a door, he accidentally slammed it into a maid. He peeked around, shocked to see the young maid Alshi staggering. She covered her face, letting out a pained whimper as Kake panicked. She tearfully welcomed him home, apologizing profusely for the accident. A frantic exchange of apologies erupted as Kake rushed to help. A calm voice cut through the chaos, asking what the commotion was. Elsa stood there, instantly grasping the entire awkward situation. Kake admitted their timing was just unfortunately bad for both of them. Elsie, ever the professional, simply instructed Alsh to go and rest. The younger maid scurried away down the long, opulent hallway. Kake felt a pang of guilt, wishing he could use healing magic. Els calmly turned to him, asking what business brought him here today. With a slightly sheepish grin, Kake admitted he had a question. Standing in the grand hall, he began to explain his predicament. Els listened intently, her curiosity piqued by his unusual request. He asked her how she, a native of the capital, spends her days off. She paused for a moment, considering his question carefully. She described quiet days spent at cafes, bookstores, and clothing shops. Kake was impressed by her calm, adult way of enjoying herself. Elsie thought for another moment, recalling another favorite pastime. She told him she enjoys going to see works of art. She seemed to notice his complete lack of familiarity with the concept. The capital, she explained, had many museums and seasonal exhibitions. That, she concluded, was how she typically spent her leisure time. Kake decided he would ask the more boisterous Alshi later. For now, he was content, though he felt bad for startling her. He decided to start by exploring alone to find his own comfort zone. Thanking her, he announced he was going for a walk around the city. He stood outside his mansion, a list of ideas in hand. He felt a sense of accomplishment, having gathered useful information. His first destination would be the North District, as Elsa recommended. He walked through charming streets lined with beautiful, old buildings. He passed a stylish cafe, intrigued by its sophisticated appearance. The wealthy district had a calm, peaceful atmosphere he appreciated. He took a moment to sit and plan his cultural exploration. He noticed many quaint bookstores, including secondhand shops. He also saw a stylish shopping mall, a hub of modern commerce. All right, he decided, I'll start with the bookstore. He pushed open the heavy wooden door and cautiously peeked inside. His eyes widened in absolute wonder at the sight before him. A magnificent spiral staircase carved from a tree dominated the room. He felt a thrill of excitement, as if he'd entered a theme park. Unlike a Japanese bookstore, he had no idea where anything was. Then his eyes landed on a section of colorful, illustrated books. He pulled one from the shelf, realizing it was a picture book. He smiled, thinking of Nina, who would be thrilled to receive one. He decided to buy several to share with all the village children. The bell on the door chimed as he left the magical bookstore. He stood on the steps, his new purchases in hand, feeling the cost. He sheepishly admitted he got a little carried away with his gift. He could almost hear Nina scolding him for his reckless spending. Deciding to stop shopping, he reminded himself that self-control is key. Even so, he still had plenty of time to kill before lunch. It was far too early to find a place to eat. He decided a walk around the neighborhood wouldn't hurt. He passed a restaurant with a ship logo painted on its sign. Next to it was a boutique with elegant dresses in the window. He continued his stroll, taking in the sights of the beautiful city. He admired another shop with small decorative trees in its display. His walk led him to a grand classical building with a large statue. He looked up at the imposing structure, realizing it was an art museum. He recalled Elsa's words about the capital being a city of arts. He felt a spark of genuine curiosity, a desire to see more. The presence of a guard suggested a valuable exhibition was inside. He had no experience with art, but it seemed interesting enough. "Shall I give it a go?" he wondered, looking up at the entrance. He approached the front desk to purchase a ticket for admission. Before entering, he was given a quick but thorough security check. He carefully signed his name in the official guest register. He stepped into a grand, modern hall filled with elegant patrons. He felt a bit intimidated by the solemn, almost sacred atmosphere. Peeking into a gallery, he still felt a little out of place. The hall was so quiet he felt as if he couldn't even breathe. He walked cautiously through the pristine, silent space. He learned this was the oldest museum, a perfect place to learn history. He wandered through a gallery, its walls lined with ornate paintings. He paused to admire a large, beautifully draped marble statue. Another wall was covered in an odd collection of empty mirrors. He found himself struggling to connect with the abstract pieces. He admitted to himself that he didn't really understand art. He then noticed a group of patrons all gathered in one spot. He saw a large crowd standing before a single roped-off painting. He wondered what could possibly be drawing so much attention. He squeezed through the crowd to get a better look. When he finally saw the painting, his eyes widened in disbelief. It was a breathtakingly realistic painting of Zafrael and its castle. The story opens on a breathtakingly realistic painting of the capital city, Zafrael. Kake stands among the museum patrons, his expression one of pure, unadulterated awe. He finds himself wondering what the name of this incredible work of art could be. His eyes are wide, completely captivated by the masterful skill on display before him. A small plaque reveals the title, Zafrael Castle, and the artist's name, Laphilia. The series title appears over a detailed drawing of the city's charming streets. Kake steps out of the museum, the profound experience still fresh in his mind. He reflects on what a truly wonderful piece of art he had just had the pleasure of seeing. He thinks he could have stared at that painting forever. So deep was his immersion. He smiles, amazed that such a powerful and moving painting actually exists in this world. A warm blush of happiness spreads across his face as he basks in the pleasant memory. His stomach suddenly rumbles. All that walking has made him hungry for an early lunch. He wanders through the bustling city streets, searching for a suitable place to eat. He spots a chic outdoor cafe filled with fashionable people and happy couples. A wave of social anxiety hits him. He feels this place is too much for him to handle. A group of women chat happily, while another couple shares a sweet, intimate moment. The atmosphere is vibrant and social, making the solitary Kake feel terribly out of place. He watches a woman playfully feed her partner a piece of cake from her fork. Overwhelmed by the scene, he feels like an outsider looking into a different world. A waitress greets him, but he awkwardly insists that it's too difficult for him to enter. He recoils in panic, deciding he absolutely cannot bring himself to go in there alone. With a mumbled apology, he decides to pass on this particular cafe and continue his search. He turns his back on the trendy spot and walks away, feeling defeated. Wiping a bead of sweat from his brow, he chastises himself for his lack of courage. He reasons that a young woman like Elsa would naturally recommend such a popular place. He imagines sitting alone amidst the stylish crowd and knows he couldn't bear the atmosphere. He sighs, thinking it's a shame, but ultimately feels he made the right choice. He resolves to keep walking, confident that he will find a better place if he just looks. He passes by other eateries, seeing all the patrons inside enjoying their meals. He walks with purpose, but his search for the right spot is proving to be quite difficult. He finds another promising restaurant, only to see a closed sign hanging on the door. His hopeful step falters as he realizes his bad luck is continuing. Shoulders slumped in defeat, He groans that none of the places seem to be open. He laments that his legs are tired and he is now genuinely, seriously starving. He second-guesses himself, wondering if he should have just gone into the first cafe after all. He stopped, suddenly realizing he has wandered into an unfamiliar part of the city. He looks around the quiet back street, wondering how he managed to end up here. He admits to himself that he was just wandering aimlessly and has gotten completely lost. Defeated, he decides to give up and simply go home to have Elsa make him a meal. He stops mid-stride, his senses catching a faint but familiar and inviting aroma. He looks up, realizing the wonderful smell is the rich scent of brewing coffee. His eyes land on a charming wooden sign for a quaint-looking coffee shop. He feels like he's been saved, with tiny trumpeting angels heralding his discovery. He thinks the name Black Cat's Coffee is quite cute and very appealing. With renewed hope, he rushes to the door, praying that there will be an empty seat. He steps into a beautifully decorated cafe with a warm, welcoming, and rustic atmosphere. He is pleasantly surprised by how spacious and inviting the interior is. A cheerful waitress pops up from behind the counter to welcome him inside with a smile. She kindly tells him to take any seat that he likes. Overcome with relief, he feels tears of gratitude for finally finding a place to rest. He gratefully settles into a comfortable booth by the large window. He takes a moment to appreciate the quiet, peaceful ambiance of the charming cafe. The classic decor gives him a nostalgic feeling of an old-fashioned Japanese coffee shop. He decides this quiet, hidden gem is a much better fit for him than the popular spot. The waitress comes to his table to ask him for his order. He orders the sandwich lunch special with a refreshing iced fruit tea to drink. He relaxes, taking in the charming and slightly quirky details of the cafe's interior. The waitress returns remarkably quickly, telling him that his order is ready. She places his sandwich lunch and his tall glass of fruit tea on the table before him. His eyes widen in complete and utter shock at the sight of his meal. The sandwich is absolutely enormous, 2 massive triangles of bread stuffed to the brim. He exclaims that it's huge, a delighted and slightly flustered grin on his face. The waitress explains her father's philosophy that sandwiches should never be small. Kake remarks on how dapper the owner is, despite his particular food philosophy. They share a lighthearted moment, learning the fillings change based on the owner's mood. He laughs at the charming story, and the waitress giggles along with him. She leaves him to enjoy his meal in the peaceful and quiet cafe. He inspects the massive sandwich, wondering where he should even begin to eat it. He takes his first bite and has a sudden, pleasant realization about the taste. He recognizes the flavor of egg salad, a nostalgic and comforting taste from his past. The taste reminds him of the convenience store sandwiches from his previous world in Japan. He takes another bite, savoring the unexpected and welcome taste of home. He finds the flavor delicious and surprisingly delicate despite its hearty appearance. He reflects that finding this personal hideout was the right choice for him after all. He happily declares to himself that he will definitely be coming back to this cafe. He continues to enjoy his meal in the quiet, comfortable setting of the booth. He finishes every last crumb of the delicious sandwich, his plate completely clean. He feels satisfied, happy to find a cafe that serves such a hearty and filling meal. Now that he's full, a pleasant wave of sleepiness begins to wash over him. With some of his iced tea still left, he decides to read one of the books he bought. He settles in at his table, engrossed in the book's unfamiliar and intriguing script. He enjoys the quiet space, a welcome escape from the city's constant hustle and bustle. He considers his evening plans, perhaps enjoying the night view from the clock tower. Soft, gentle music from an old-fashioned gramophone fills the air with a pleasant melody. He reads peacefully, completely absorbed in his book and the relaxing atmosphere. The cafe is his newfound sanctuary, a perfect place for a quiet afternoon alone. His peaceful moment is suddenly and unexpectedly interrupted by a familiar arrival. Emilio greets him cheerfully, leaning over his table with a wide, dazzling smile. Emilio wishes him a good day with his signature charismatic and confident flair. Kake looks up from his book, his face a mask of pure and utter annoyance. Emilio notes Kake's incredibly unpleasant expression upon seeing him, and finds it amusing. Kake tells him not to be so obnoxious, but Emilio pulls up a chair beside him. Emilio smoothly orders an iced milk tea, lamenting the ruin of Kake's precious day off. Kake accuses Emilio of getting strange ideas about him and Nina from Elsa. Emilio clarifies that he only said Kake had a close female friend, not a lover. Kake asks how he knew where to find him, and Emilio casually says Elsa told him. A flashback shows Elsa explaining Kake went to a cafe on a distant street. Kake is surprised that his maid would give away his location so easily. Emilio points, knowingly declaring Kake would never enter a stylish cafe alone. Kake is struck dumb, his face a mask of shock at being so perfectly understood. Kake slumps in his seat, annoyed that his search for a quiet cafe has failed. A forced smile masks his growing irritation, but he admits he is getting annoyed. Emilio praises his sharp perception, jokingly suggesting he could become a detective. Patting a defeated Kake, Emilio orders a drink and offers a simple thanks. Kake finally sighs and asks his friend what business he has with him. Emilio reveals that a certain individual has a request he wants Kake to handle. Kake listens with piqued interest, his eyes focused on his business partner. He correctly deduces the client must know about his work with the company. Emilio explains their partnership is easily suspected by investigating his company's sudden growth. Kake concedes that their business relationship isn't exactly a well-kept secret. He reflects on his unique magic, noting how unusual this particular request is. Emilio states that any request he brings must involve profitable logistics. His partner simply smiles, hinting there is more to this than just business. Emilio reveals the client is an old acquaintance, which surprises Kake. Kake realizes he knows nothing of Emilio's personal life, making this unusual. Admitting his curiosity, Emilio eagerly prepares to introduce his mysterious acquaintance. Kake scolds Emilio for making their guest wait outside in the summer heat. Emilio dismisses his concern with a condescending pat on the head. He then calmly walks over and opens the door to let the visitor in. An elegant shoe steps across the threshold with a soft, deliberate click. In the doorway stands a woman of breathtaking, almost ethereal beauty. Kake is stunned by her beauty, thinking she looks incredibly fragile and lovely. He realizes she is the woman he bumped into on the street earlier. Jolting in his seat, Kake stammers out a flustered greeting. The woman offers a polite apology for intruding on his quiet afternoon. He is still completely flustered, unable to form a proper response. She asks for his name, apologizing for her own delayed introduction. She introduces herself as Ophelia, a painter, a name Kake instantly recognizes.